Here.
Trustee Withrow,
Here.
Trustee Jenkins,
Here.
Trustee Handy,
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan. I see you're here. I see you're on. I'll come back to you, Trustee Ewan. Trustee Bonilla, absent. Trustee Delphine Polk,
Here.
Trustee Napoli Villareese.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
And I am here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's move on to 3.3, affirmation of the statement of cooperation. As per usual, we start our board meetings with the affirmation of the statement of cooperation. And this is the gist of it. The whole document is attached to your agenda. The Peralta Board has adopted a statement of cooperation that codifies our commitment to set the bar for excellence in governance and community college leadership and to lead by example for our Peralta colleges. The full statement of cooperation is attached, but in summary, we have committed to number 1, building trust and seeking to understand each other. Number 2, being prepared and following good governance and ethical protocols. And number 3, modeling the behavior we want others to exhibit. 3.4, Pledge of Allegiance. Royal Roberts, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? In-house counsel?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 3.5, report of action taken in closed session, Vice President Delphine Polk.
We have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's go to 3.6, announcement of acknowledgement for student trustees serving academic year 2021-2022. I'll hand that over to Interim Chancellor Jackson, and then I'll make a comment afterwards. Chancellor Jackson?
I couldn't find my unmute. I couldn't find my unmute button. So one of the things that has been a tradition within the district is that we recognize the service of our student trustees at their last board meeting. And it's interesting because one of those student trustees was elected and is going to be serving this next year, but student trustee Lisa Hogan. And we also have a student trustee, Micah Cooper, who is here. And so I would ask the board president, and because we're virtually, we usually what we would do would be to bring you up in front of the dais. We would shake your hands, we would read the citations, and we would have a picture, but we can't do that because we're still in a hybrid mode. But know that we appreciate your voices, we appreciate your service, and we appreciate getting to know each one of you as you represented the students and the student body of our district. So I will turn it back over to the board president to read the citation. And when we get back together, we would like to have you come back, and student Hogan, you will be here, and student trustee Cooper, we would like to still get a photo opportunity for you if you so choose.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. I do not see a citation that you refer to. Is there a citation?
I'm sorry, but it's difficult to hear you, President.
Sure. I do not see a citation. You just referred to a
Oh,
citation. Is
Well,
I see it.
yeah.
Okay, so the certificates of recognition, right?
Oh, a certificate. I'm sorry. I used the wrong term.
So this is strange because you are not here, but I do hope that you're able to feel how we're feeling in terms of our gratitude for your work. A certificate of recognition is awarded to Micah Cooper, Peralta Community College District student trustee, for their service and dedicated leadership and continuing service to the students of this community for the academic year 2021-2022. Thank you, Micah Cooper.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And then the certificate of recognition is awarded to Lisa Hogan, Peralta Community College District Student Trustee, for their service and dedicated leadership and continuing service to the students of this community for the academic year 2021-2022. Congratulations, Lisa.
Thank you.
And thank you both again. It's been the most difficult time to really put forth being student leaders, especially in an online format. But again, as Interim Chancellor Jackson had said, we thank you and appreciate your time, your advocacy for all of our students and your voices. Thank you. Let's now move on to 3.7, swearing in ceremony for incoming student trustees. And I will call on Trustee Handy to do our first swearing in of Lisa Hogan.
I am ready. Okay. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Please repeat after me. I insert your name. Do solemnly swear
I, Lisa Hogan, do solemnly swear
to carry out my responsibilities as student trustee
to carry out my responsibilities as student trustee
of the Peralta Community College District.
of the Peralta Community College District.
I do personally commit myself
I do personally commit myself
to convey the concerns of the student body
to convey the concerns of the student body
to the Board of Trustees
to the Board of Trustees
and to convey the concerns of the Board of Trustees
and to convey the concerns of the Board of Trustees
to the student body
to the student body
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And our next student trustee for 2022-2023 is Sarah Latino. Are you ready?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. Could you raise your right hand, please? Okay, and then repeat after me. I, and then insert your name, do solemnly swear
I, Sarah Latino, do solemnly swear
to carry out my responsibilities
to carry out my responsibilities
as student trustee of the Peralta Community College District.
as student trustee of the Peralta Community College District.
I do personally commit myself
I do personally commit myself
to convey the concerns of the student body
to convey the concerns of the student body
to the Board of Trustees
to the Board of Trustees
and to convey the concerns of the Board of Trustees
and to convey the concerns of the Board of Trustees
to the student body to the best of my ability.
to the student body to the best of my ability.
Wonderful. Thank you and welcome. And hopefully
you.
we'll see you in person next to us.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sarah, and congratulations, Lisa. Okay. Let us move on to the next item, which is 3.8, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion? Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Second? Trustees, may I have a second for 3.8? We all on mute?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Handy. Discussion, are there any items that need to be pulled from this agenda or moved around on the agenda rather?
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to pull 5.2 for discussion.
Okay, 5.2 discussion. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
Okay, roll call.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins, trustee Jenkins. I think he's frozen. Trustee Handy,
Sarah, you need to
Sasha, I think you want
unmute.
to.
I'm sorry. Trustee Gonzalez, you won?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla? Oh, absent. Trustee Delphine Polk?
Thank you, Miss. This is Trustee Jenkins.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Napoleon Bellarice? Trustee Reese?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move on to approval of the minutes, 3.9. Motion, please. Thank you, Trustee Withrow.
Second.
Did she mention discussion? I can't hear her.
Cindy, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Discussion?
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay. Discussion, anyone? Roll call then.
Student Trustee Hogan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Latino?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan?
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk?
Yes.
Trustee Napoleon Bellarice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 3.10, Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Good evening, President Reese, Vice President Delphine Polk, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Jackson, presidents, and guests. Tonight, we have 3 classified Senate campus reports. The first report comes from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. For the first time, 4 BCC classified professional staff members attended the Classified Leadership Institute held last week in Riverside, California. This event was centered around supporting and providing leadership development for classified professionals working in the California community colleges. The BCC group returned energized and ready to share the exceptional information and resources gained from this institute. The Classified Professional Senate Leadership Team is developing a summer retreat for all classified professionals to discuss circumstances and solutions specific to current issues impacting classified professional employees. The second report comes from the Merritt College Classified Senate. The Merritt College Classified Senate elections have concluded, and the following classifieds will serve on the 2022 to 2023 Merritt College Classified Senate. DeChetta Henry, President. Marisol Roque Chavez, Vice President. Saneed Anderson, Treasurer. Maria Spencer, Secretary. Nancy Marino, Public Information Officer. Margie Rubio, Senator. Jamila Saleh, Senator. Susana De La Torre, Senator. And Michelle Ma, Senator. The third report comes from the Laney College Classified Senate. Laney College Classified Senate's spring retreat will take place Thursday, June 16th. Topics of discussion will include SEIU updates, elections, and contract negotiation. Fiscal year, professional development, and review the Constitution and bylaws. Hope Lane and Katrina Santos attended the 30th Annual Classified Leadership Institute Conference June 7th through the 10th in Riverside, California. The conference focuses on leadership training, professional development, and effective staff participation in the participatory governance process at state and local levels. Some at 6 attributes of leadership mindset. These mindsets help leaders rethink challenges. Brad Phillips, Caring Campus. This is an initiative that provides opportunities to bolster student success efforts by involving classified professional staff to focus on identifying behaviors to be implemented intentionally while creating a caring campus where students feel welcome and cared for. Caring Campus initiative is in its early stages at Berkeley City College, and we hope to collaborate with them as we begin to implement the initiative here at Laney College. Overall, We collaborated and networked with classified professionals from all over the California Community College system over the 4-day conference. That is the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your continued support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you for that, Karen. Let's move on to 3.11, Associated Student Government Reports.
I don't see. Let's see here. Is Karen Torres here? I don't see her. I don't see anybody here for the Associated Student Government Reports.
Okay, it's summer, probably not. All right, let's move on to 312, District Academic Senate Report.
Good evening, President Reese and members of the board, Chancellor Jackson, and everybody here. During the end of May, we had our, the District Academic Senate had our retreat where we were discussing the, I guess, biannual plenary that we put on every 2 to 3 years that we will be having this September 17th, Wednesday. And it will be a hybrid event. And the effort will be to invite our faculty to have discussions around current events, what's going on at the state level with the different initiatives from the state. One in particular that we've been watching has been AB 1705 that has unanimously gone through the assembly and seems to be moving forward. It's a follow-up to AB 705. So we want to apprise our DAS members and faculty in general about what new changes are coming from the state. We will have the state president, a state senate president there, as well as others. And we intend to do this as a hybrid. It's going to be interesting to try to see how we could do this in a hybrid fashion, but we feel that going into next year, we need to be doing both, not only online, but also face-to-face. So we're really looking forward to that activity. I will be the District Academic Senate President for this upcoming year. We had our election, and we will be moving forward with the senates from the various colleges, trying to make sure that we are doing the good work for our students. We saw the graduation, I don't know if you want to call them ceremonies or whichever ways that were done. I know that up in Merritt, they actually had the full ceremony where other ones were a little bit different. So we're glad that those students had something to get and to ensure that they had a memorable time here at the Peralta Colleges. So as we look forward to next year, we want to extend our relationships to the Board of Trustees, to Chancellor Jackson, the college presidents, and the vice chancellors at the district to work together to really try to ensure that our students are served. And the big issues from this past year in terms of the cuts to our FTEF, I know we are in a process of trying to ensure that we have some type of governance process to look at those numbers as we move forward into next year, in particular in the fall, because the new numbers will be announced come early spring semester. So we want to make sure that faculty have a voice in what's going on. And Chancellor Jackson has assured us that we will be all working together on those points. Other ones that we're looking forward to is governance processes. Our governance processes are being worked on. In the early fall, we will have a summit, and information about that will have to be forthcoming when our folks are back for fall, but it should be early fall. And we look forward to really engaging on our governance processes to ensure that there is back and forth between the governance processes from the colleges as well as from the district. And so we're looking forward to those actions as well. So as we go into the summer, there's a lot of things that we're looking forward to come this fall. So thank you very much. And we look forward to working with you. And for those of you who could attend our plenary, we will be having it on, August 17th. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. The work never stops, but thank you for all that you do. Let's move on to 313, public communication.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to read AP 2345, which is the public participation for board meetings and public comment. We do have, I see 33 attendees currently. So anybody that's an attendee and would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. The public comment time limitations is as follows. Communications by members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes each. Time may be yielded to another speaker up to a limit of 6 additional minutes, provided there are no more than 5 speakers for the agenda item or in the non-agenda category. At the discretion of the board president of the board, total time allowed for speakers for an agenda item or in the non-agenda category may be limited to 15 minutes. In order to limit total time, the board president may limit individual speakers to 1 or 2 minutes. If more requests are received that can be honored within the meeting's time limit, they will be scheduled for the subsequent meeting in the order received. Please note, a total of 45 minutes is allowed for public comment. Between 1 to 3 minutes will be allowed per speaker, depending on the number of speakers that have signed up for public comment. The list of public comment speakers may need to be cut off to remain within the total allowed time frame. So I see at this moment I have 13 and counting. I will move 3 people over at a time. Board President, I have 15. Did you want to? I'm sorry.
You have 15 at the moment.
At the moment, I have 15. Do you want to limit it to 2 minutes?
So at 15, let's go ahead and do 3 minutes. However, at 45 minutes, we will be cutting off. So just for the public to know, we had originally thought that there were 30 people and we wanted to get as many people to speak as possible, which is why we were going to go with 2 minutes to each individual. But if we are currently at 15, then let's do 3 minutes. However, in 45 minutes, we will be ceasing public communication. So are we at 15 or is it growing?
We're at 17 now.
Okay, how about if we, I wish my vice president was right here. Let's do. Deanna.
Can you move closer to the microphone though, Cindy, please?
Wow, nobody's hearing me. We currently have 17 people. And 17 people at 3 minutes goes beyond the 45-minute max or the 45-minute limit. So why don't we do 17 at 2 minutes, and then hopefully we'll have other people that will also sign up in the queue. That brings us to our 45-minute max or limit. Does that sound good, Deanna? And does that sound good, Sasha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep, as
17
long as we can
people.
get everybody
Yep.
who wants to speak in, that's my priority.
Okay, I know Terrence Fisher has a public comment and he's actually on as a panelist. Terrence? Oh, you're muted, sir.
Sorry about that. I'm transitioning over. I'm Terrence Fisher and I work at the Writing Center at Laney College. I wish to speak about flexible work schedules. Under Article 7 of the SEIU PCCD side letter of agreement, the district's return to campus objective is to affect 100% operations with staffing designed to be proportionally safe and flexible in order to meet actual in-person student needs. There has been talk that employees will not work effectively from home. Well, the pandemic was a big beta test and disproved that school of thought, showing that classified professionals are effective when working from home. This is evidenced by the number of classifieds at the District Administrative Center, who today continue to work remotely from home. Their managers wouldn't allow them to do this if they were not productive. All classifieds should be allowed to sit down with their frontline managers and work out a safe, flexible, hybrid schedule that meets the needs of their service areas. Further, staggered work schedules among classifieds working in close proximity to each other promotes a safe workplace, doesn't adversely affect production, and reduces the risk of COVID infection. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. I'm going to go ahead and move over. Jeff Sinceri.
Sorry about that. I was muted. I'll first say that it looks like from the pictures and backgrounds that we have that you guys are having a contest to see who can show the most books in their background, and I think Sasha is going to win. I want to start by echoing what President Moore said about the need for actual participatory governance with the faculty. It's as a member of the Academic Senate in the District Academic Senate, it's something we've been out without for far too long, I think. I also like to show a little bit of gratitude for Trustee Jenkins, who actually pulled number 5.2 off the consent agenda. It's for legal services, and it says certain law firms. And that's 6 law firms that we have listed. And that's a lot of law firms. And I know they all do different things. Some do, negotiating, some do this, some do, lobbying, and I get it. But I think between the hiring of all these different firms and the consultant firms for things like construction or the bond or for general facilities, for, budget, I wonder whether or not there's going to be any managerial work left for our actual managers. It's besides the kind of work that they tend to create for themselves. And I say that as the grievance officer for the Peralta Federation of Teachers. So I actually was expecting this to go on consent, so I wanted you guys just to ponder this, but it looks like you guys are going to discuss it. So I'm happy that that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next, I have Azul Lewis.
Hi, thanks for giving me the chance to speak. My name is Azul Lewis. I'm a chemist. I was a community college student myself. I studied at the College of Chemistry at Berkeley, was a research associate at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and now I work for the BCC Chemistry Department and have done for close to 20 years. For me, leadership includes things like not asking those who earn less than us to do things we won't need to participate in ourselves. I don't think anyone should be asked to work wearing a mask for 10 hours at a time, unless absolutely necessary. We're not surgeons, and we don't have private offices where we can take off our masks. BCC's science department is a tiny space that offers the most chemistry courses of any campus. Before the pandemic, There were things we could see the need for, but couldn't do because of space. I used to tutor in the middle of the day. That worked for some students, but now I'm able to support a different group by meeting them remotely. I can hear their kids in the background. They contact me from their jobs, and it's not just daytime students. Even those most interested for in-person labs tell me they prefer online options for things like tutoring and office hours. It feels accessible. But for the same reason we weren't able to do those things physically in the same space, we can't all do them by Zoom simultaneously in shared offices. There's been recognition and support for how faculty and admin work has changed during this time, but that's been missing for classified work. Our classes now feel first for anything with hybrid and online content, and last for 100% in person. That's the new reality. I support students and faculty who are no longer 100% in person 8 to 5, and the insistence on 100% in person is actually now hindering my ability to serve them in the way they've come to expect from me. Thanks for your time.
Azul, you can actually go ahead and continue. I have Jamie Redden who has ceded their 2 minutes to you, if you so choose.
All right. I guess I'll just say through the entire pandemic, I've been coming into campus in proportion to need and in excess of what was asked for, while doing my other work remotely to reduce my exposure. I was told that the 410 return would need to be 100% in person, no exceptions because equity. Since then, I've heard there are exceptions, including those working at higher levels. I don't mind coming in more than others in person, but I do think if we're saying 100%, no exceptions because equity, then that's what it should be. I personally think that everyone should be able to work out logical, student-centered solutions with their supervisor, but that wasn't allowed to happen. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Next, I have Karen Shields.
I will cede my time to Roberto Gonzalez.
Okay, give me one moment and I will move Roberto Gonzalez over. Okay, he has been moved over as a panelist whenever you're ready. Roberto, I see that you're on. Can you hear us? You're muted.
Let me see if I. Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. There's a couple of additional people who actually ceded their time to me.
Well, there's a limit to 2 additional people or 3 additional people to 1 person. So, and we still have another 12 people on top of that. So how many people?
I think I can do it with one other person. Let me just look to see. It looks like Dolores Harshaw, I believe, is in the meeting, and she ceded her time to me as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so all right, very good. My name is Roberto Gonzalez. And I just need to find my notes. There we go. So I am, I worked at Berkeley City College. I'm the Peralta Classified Senate parliamentarian. I'm an SEIU officer and a Peralta steward. In addition to my day job in disability services for the college and serving on a variety of committee work, I also have had the pleasure of serving on SEIU's bargaining team. In at least 3 conversations I have been involved in with administrators, the topic of trust was raised, where we all acknowledge that we need to build trust within Peralta. That trust is lacking among administrators and classified professionals, and that trust must be earned. I am sure that we all have our own relationship with the word trust in both our personal lives and the relevance in our professional relationships. In December of last year, SEIU and the district signed off on a side letter of agreement around the return to campus by staff, prompted by the availability of the COVID-19 vaccines and the tangible need to serve those who preferred in-person services and those who are unable to adequately cope with virtual meeting spaces. In those discussions with managers, it was clear that remote work remained an essential modality for most of us, but that we would be transitioning or pivoting depending on a variety of circumstances, including the status of the pandemic and the need for in-person service. As you are aware, Article 7 that was cited a little bit earlier from our side letter agreement states, the district's return to campus objective is to effect 100% operations with staff designed to be proportional, safe, and flexible in order to meet actual in-person student needs. During the past 6 months, I and other SEIU stewards and officers have unfortunately had numerous meetings with human resources, presidents, vice presidents, deans, and directors, mostly on how to interpret the phrase actual in-person student needs, as well as the words proportional, safe, and flexible. In every case, SEIU consistently points out that virtual work over Zoom, Teams, email, and phone is just as important and often more in demand than in-person mask-to-mask services for students. On the other hand, managers either didn't get the memo or have consulted dictionaries of alternative definitions. For example, in Vice Chancellor McKinley's recent message to our SEIU president, he writes, as you may recall from our side letter negotiations, in-person staffing proportionality is not tied to the number of students on campus, but rather sorry, my paper is flipped, is based on student needs as determined by the individual administrations. We never said that proportionality is tied to the number of students on campus, but the number of students on campus is certainly an indicator of actual in-person need. In January, all of the financial aid staff at Berkeley City College were requested to report to work on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. This was horrifying to the 6 or so staff that work in that department. Despite repeated attempts to work a staggered hybrid schedule, BCC management dodged, put off meetings, and essentially ignored all attempts by staff to engage management to rearrange their schedules until the union representation was brought in. It was very simple. Staff proposed that they divide into two groups, whereby half of the staff would work on campus for 2 days, the other group would work on campus for the other 2 days, and Friday would remain as a remote work day. The net outcome would be twofold. A, staff would feel much better about their working conditions, having less people in confined spaces, and students would have the privilege of having 4 days of on-campus service. This proposal was ultimately
10 seconds.
ultimately adopted and was vastly superior to what managers had initially proposed. Trust. Trust in part is a mutual collaboration. Managers,
Sir, I'm sorry.
that's too bad. I have a lot more to say. I do want to talk about trust, but we'll return to the topic of trust, I hope, in the future talk, because we really do need to learn to trust and to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Nancy Caton.
Hello, thank you. I also work at Berkeley City College. I'm the curriculum and assessment specialist there. And in my free time, I am a caregiver for both of my elderly parents who have a number of health conditions, including for both of them, lung issues. And so when the staff at the campus was ordered to begin working in person 100% time, when the 410 schedule was announced, this was also at the same time we were having an upsurge in COVID infections in Alameda County. And I became very fearful of contracting COVID and inadvertently passing it on to my parents. I think that sometimes we forget that even though we're vaxxed and boosted, we can still get sick. The illness can be very difficult, and that it is very hard on elderly people, and that also, even in a mild case, long COVID can plague us for the rest of our lives. Or we don't even know at this point how many things we could end up wrong with us after being infected. So it didn't make sense to me that all staff were being required to work in person 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, suddenly at this, because we happen to be changing also to this 410 schedule. And as others have said, in-person demand for services from students is actually quite low. And as it happens in my particular job, I have no student facing and have never had a student facing aspect to my work. So it was very disconcerting. I do want to mention something that others have said before, which is this idea of proportional, safe, and flexible. I think we really need to do that in order to keep all of us safe.
Thank you. Next, we have Louis Martinez. Martinez, sorry.
Shasha. Hello, board members, PCTV staff, and community members. My name is Louis Martinez Mcfarland. I worked at the College of Alameda as a project manager for EOPS in CARE and Salam Learning Community. I'm an SIU steward and also have been voted as the COA classified president for academic year 2023. I live in Alameda, and I am also a registered voter and have been a member with the Alameda County Asian Pacific Island Democratic Caucus. As you may know, over the past 2 years, SAIU has been instrumental in providing services to students, faculty, and administrators, from admissions and records to student accessibility services, counseling, and IT. While there is a need for in-person services, students continue to largely seek out virtual courses and services. Staggered hybrid schedules has worked to keep us safe, and I'm not sure why Peralta School District, as I am a representative of the COA classified, is asking, should we continue with the practice to 100% return to work? The sudden return to 100% on-campus work has caused many members at COA disruption and workflow disruption and unnecessary anxiety and stress among our workers, especially workers that have members who have elderly parents that they're taking care of or have young children. Our side letter agreement clearly states the district's return to campus objective is to effect 100% operation with staffing designed to be proportionally safe and flexible in order to meet actual in-person student needs. However, the district has not provided or upheld our agreements. A deal is a deal. SAU bargained in good faith, and the district should uphold our agreements. I ask the Board of Trustees to support SEIU's efforts to keep our students, community, and families safe. Please review and develop an approved board and administrative policy for remote work. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry, Louis. You have, it looks like Eric Stevens has ceded his time to you.
Thank you. I did want to add just one thing aside from the return to work is to start looking at our committee at the college as well as the board policies to find a centralized place where governance structures are understood and learned, and that we have a central place to post our agendas at the college and at the district level. That has been inconsistent at the college level, and I can see it at the College of Alameda, while at the district I can see it, but at the college level it's been inconsistent in having a governance process that is open and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hope Lane.
I cede my time to Alejandro Acosta.
I think Alejandro has been moved over as a panelist, so you can go ahead and you can speak whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'll try to keep this short. Hello, board members. My name is Alejandro. I work in the theater at Laney, and I'm a shop steward with SEIU 1021. As part of my job, I work hands-on with performing arts students and faculty and maintain and operate the theater building. So I've been working 100% in person for quite some time. I consider in-person work to be a necessary risk that I take in order to better serve students. But I'm here today to represent classified professionals who are currently being forced to take unnecessary risks because of scheduling decisions made by senior management. There are many staff at the college who do not work directly with students and are currently working 40 hours a week on site in shared offices, providing services and support electronically. I am hearing from these staff members that sharing indoor office space in order to provide services electronically or log into Zoom meetings in the middle of a COVID surge doesn't make a lot of sense. There are also staff who work in student-facing offices who are asking for consideration of hybrid or staggered schedules where they are not in the office at the same time together, to minimize COVID exposure while keeping offices open for in-person student services. The reasoning for this was illustrated recently at Laney when the entire admissions and records team was forced to close the office and quarantine due to COVID-19 exposure. I'm hearing from these classified professionals that they are serving vastly greater numbers of students remotely than in person, all while working 100% at Laney. I'm hearing that the remote services that students want are harder to deliver efficiently on campus, often because of poor conditions of our facilities. Longstanding HVAC issues in particular result in poorly ventilated, stuffy, and hot offices. I am also hearing from first level supervisors. They are not being allowed to discuss or implement hybrid work scheduling with the staff that they manage. These are the administrators who are best situated to understand the functions, related student needs, and challenges of their service areas. From my perspective, it is difficult to understand why senior college and district administrators are making the decisions that they are, and why service area managers and staff, the student need experts, are not being consulted on these questions. But I'm here today to communicate that what classified professionals are asking for is simple. We are asking to be treated with respect, not just in words, but in action, and for our health and safety to be considered when making scheduling decisions. Thank you.
You actually have an additional 2 more minutes because Kawana Rollins has ceded her time to you.
I'm out of things to say. Thank you.
Did you want to continue or?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Waduda Kareem. I hope I did not ruin that one.
No, you got it right. I would like to cede my time to Sinead Anderson.
Okay, give me 1 moment. I don't know if they're going to be able to move over, so I'm going to have to move. Oh, they moved over. Okay, Sinead, whenever you're ready, you are allowed to go for 4 minutes.
Okay, hi everyone, good evening. My name is Sinead Geneva Anderson. You may see me as SG Anderson. I am a Peralta Classified Senate Treasurer at Merritt College, SCI Union Representative for Merritt College. I will also be on the negotiations team. I'm a former student body president when there were no actual student advisors. And I have been from a student to a employee all the way up to now working as a classified professional. I want to talk to you a little bit, and I'll be very brief, about something that we all care about, and that is kindness, ethics, empathy, and trust, as one of my colleagues, Alejandro, stated before. And I just want to say this because we do have a side letter that states about us returning on campus 100%. And SCIU did meet with human resources. And during those meetings, we did say that we were going to have exceptions to if there were particular things like hardship, or if there were things like health, that we would work with our actual employees. However, that has not happened. But I do have to give credit where credit is due, because Dr. Johnson and President Johnson has been very, very great working with classified staff and administrators to let them know that there are exceptions, and to work with the classified to let them know that, he does support them during these hard times. But that's not happening across the board. And that makes me talk about disparate treatment. And that's not something that we want to engage in. However, I'm seeing it. And in addition to the disparate treatment that I'm seeing that there's a lack of empathy, there's a lack of kindness, and there's a lack of ethics. And so when I see these things, it makes me think about those times when I was a student body president from 2011 to 2013, from us going through mass budget cuts and having to do away with many of our classified staff, and going back into, more hardier times. And so when I'm looking at this, it makes me really want to question how we're treating one another. And that's something that we need to think about, in addition to the agreements that we have, not only in writing, but the agreements that we've talked about outside of those letters. Thank you.
Thank you. You still have 1:40. Do you want to continue, or?
If I can, I don't know if I'm able to give my time. Am I able to see my time, my 1 minute? Sasha?
I mean, you're already speaking now. I don't know how to cede your time to somebody else.
I'm gonna let it pass because I have another minute. I have another minute coming up, so I'll let it pass. Thank you.
Next, we have Jamil Tier.
Good evening. Hello, members of the board, students, administrative colleagues, staff, faculty colleagues, and members of the public. My name is Jamil, and I'm the chapter vice president for SEIU. I'm also the vice president-elect for the upcoming term. As a reminder for folks who are unaware of the structure of SEIU, I've been elected to this role to speak and lead my fellow colleagues and to convey the concerns of SEIU classified members to the board and to the public. I'm here tonight to do so. As you've heard tonight, in December, SEIU and the district entered a side letter of agreement, and that outlined and pertains specifically, quote unquote, the side letter of agreement says, quote unquote, the district's return to campus objective is to effect 100% operations with staffing designed to be proportional, safe, and flexible in order to meet actual in-person student needs, close quote. And that side letter of agreement expires on June 30th of 2022. The last time I came and spoke to this body was April 29th. And at that time, I shared that management at Laney had declined to meet with its members in the Student Services Division in order to gather feedback regarding roles and staggered schedules. I wanted to come tonight and be happy to report that we had reached agreements around those schedules and that it seemed like the district and SEIU were moving in a way that had a shared vision for what Peralta would look like entering these summer months. The district shared language for summer 410 schedules that made absolutely no mention of members being transitioned to an 100% in-person work schedule. It was only after SEIU worked with administrators and finalized language that we learned from our members and not from the district who we had been partnering with, that folks had been called back by their presidents 100% and been told that they were having to return to campus 100%. That does not feel safe. We urge the district to be aware of the perception to many that reaching an agreement and then backing out of that agreement after having several discussions where you've laid out your plan, your vision, all of our safety is akin to many to bargaining in bad faith. We are asking the district to step up, to be transparent if they know what their plans are, and to keep, okay, thank you, and to keep safety in mind for all of our members and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamil. Next, I have Nidong. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, you did, Sasha. Yes, you did. Hi. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Chancellor Jackson and Board Trustee. My name is Nidong, and I am a financial aid specialist at tonight I like to address our safety concern and want to make sure that many of us, have been asked to return to campus 100% of the time while COVID cases are still surging. I just want to, keep everyone aware that, in our financial office, we have an enclosed office with at least 5 people in the financial office each day. And we do not feel safe with all of us there at the same time, when we are there. So as you know, we have the side letter agreement and from the SEIU that clearly say that the district will return to campus objective is to effect 100% operation staffing designed to proportional, safe, and flexible in order to meet actual person needs. But we don't see that. The campus college president called us in for 100% returning to work. Now I understand. We all understand that our purpose to work, come to campus, work remotely is to support students, but we do not want to spread the COVID to our co-workers and our families because most of us who have families who are elders, so they have illness. So we do not want to have spread. We do not want to spread COVID to any others. We can, I think we can offer more than adequate financial aid service to our students remotely with schedule that we have previously arranged. We continue to serve just a handful of students when we are on campus, and most students request support over Zoom, over Connect, email, or phone call. I have a lot of email from the students.
Time is up. I'm sorry.
I think Long sees the time to me, Sasha.
I'm sorry.
Long Wing see the time for me. I think she texted the chat on the chat earlier. She see the time for me.
Who was the name again?
Long Wing, LOANNGUIEN.
I don't see them in the meeting.
She's probably not in the meeting right now, but she put it in a chat earlier. So Julia Chan to,
Okay, Julia Chang is ceding her time.
okay, thank you very much, Julia.
At this point, sorry, just to make a quick note, at this moment, there's no more, besides the people who have their hands raised, there's no more additional public comments that's allowed to be made at this point. I'm sorry.
All right.
About the 45-minute mark.
Okay, so for us, we can offer more than adequate financial services to our students remotely with schedules that we have previously arranged. But we continue to serve as a handful of students when we are on campus, and most students request when Zoom connects and phone call and email. So, but we have addressed our safety concern to our managers many times, but they don't seem to care. That's that part, disrespectful and no empathy. So what I would like to ask you all think about this. What if one of financial staff get COVID? The whole office will need to be quarantined. Who's going to support our financial students at PCTV then? So I want everyone to think about that. So work together in the same office with the enclosed office space. We should be able to keep our staggered schedules as BC McKinney approved it back in February for our financial office at BC. So please ensure that our first level managers are able to work out department and individual schedule. Classified staff knows the needs of students, and we must be allowed to provide input on our own schedules. And we haven't seen that. So lastly, I just want to say that thank you for listening to our safety concerns. So let us all stay safe by practicing common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Richard Tholey, and he's got Michael Wright ceding his time. So Richard, you have 4 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Richard Tholey, SEIU 1021 Chapter President. I work at the District Admissions and Records Office. Good evening, everyone. I don't know how much better I can state it. You've heard our classified professionals, our SEIU members speak on several different topics tonight. One of our major concerns, of course, is our concern is if the district is willing and able to actually be transparent, honest, and bargain in good faith. So the truth about things is SEIU, we've been consistently seeking to negotiate with the district at least a couple of chancellors ago since 2020, a telecommute policy that would incorporate a hybrid and staggered schedule. Even since VC McKinley and Chancellor Jackson have been here working together at Peralta, and since our 2021 bridge agreement, SEIU has attempted to do so. We've been told that it was going to go through shared governance. That was a semester ago, if not two. We were told that the chancellor had it. We were told that VC McKinley had it. And since then, we've been having to manage by seeking, requesting, asking for, demanding for meetings with human resources, college presidents, and individual managers. We've had to varying success. I will say a consistent presence is human resources. The concern there is that there's already been several violations in general, right? And so going back to the August 2021 bridge agreement, the extension of collective bargaining agreement, which again expires through June 30th, 2021, on page 4 on the classification and compensation study section, they're already in violation. They are out of compliance. In that section, it says that within, I think it's 6 months of them completing their wage study, that they would come and have a discussion with SEIU. They've continuously told us that they're going to wait till bargaining. We're still not in bargaining, and they continue to hold that from us. Out of violation. Number 3, COVID screening in the return to campus. Regarding return to campus, they've changed their COVID screening policy. That is out of compliance because they agreed that they would negotiate any changes to the COVID prevention plan or to our side letter agreement. Again, a violation. Other ongoing violations are continuously not restricting management from abiding by our contracts. There's working out of classes violations where they're continuously asking our folks and have them working over 90 days, asking the union to extend that past. Once the date has already passed, they continuously ask us to extend short-term non-continuous hires past the 65 days that they're supposed to be working as seasonal employees. In one case I saw, just checking the warrant payments, that after we denied the continuing employment for the financial aid systems technical analyst, they brought him as a consultant. How about that? In my own department, district admissions and records, the previous vice chancellor brought in 2 consultants. Violation after violation after violation. So as you see, we do have true concerns whether or not they will bargain in good faith with us. And we'll be honest, right? And so with the 410 summer schedule, you know, we never had any discussion nor any inclination that our folks would be coming 100% Monday through Thursday. You know, we had negotiated several months at different campuses, you know, to get a hybrid staggered schedule. We were told, okay, this is going to be set until August. 410 schedule comes up. All 4 college presidents at the same time put out the announcement. I don't know where they got it from. The district's announcement didn't indicate anything, but they all asked for a return to in-person. We've had one, other than human resources, you know, we've had one college president up at Merritt who's been consistently meeting with us, has had open conversations with us. And that's the campus where, you know, I think things, as you've heard, are going rather, you know, a little bit smoother than the other campuses. We try to keep open communication at all levels, and we constantly are asking, can we have a meeting? Can we have a meeting? You know, we haven't had a meeting with the chancellor. We haven't had a meeting with the other college presidents. But I want to update you on our advances on communication. The other day last week, we had one campus who signed a petition indicating now is not the time for us to come to a full return. We had all but one member sign that petition, and half those members, we all took a unity break, and on our time, we delivered that petition to the college president, letting them know that safety is the utmost concern for us. You know, if we're restricted to 2 or 3 minutes at the board meeting, we're going to come to you because we need to be heard. We demand respect. We're the ones on campus. Students are hardly there. We have people working remotely while they're in person on campus. They close the doors, they go into the back office in the late afternoon, and then they're working online helping students. They could do that from home. So it's a hodgepodge, zigzag, mishmash, whatever you want to call it, of inconsistency. And so we wanted to just bring this to your attention. We want to ask the board to provide direction to this administration. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where that hybrid policy is or that telecommute policy, but we've been asking for it for at least a couple of years. So once again, we're asking for you to support SEIU, our classified professionals, keep ourselves safe, our families safe, our community safe, as you all are doing. Thank you.
Richard, you still have 1.5 minutes left. 2 other people seated.
Are you sure you want to give me that?
Got 125.
Okay. Yeah, so you know, it's not about the money, right? Even though we see a $300,000 budget increase on law firms, some of which are actually, you know, adversarially negotiating with us, keeping us away, you know, from these conversations, or backing up human resources in their assertion that they're complying with our side letter agreement. It's not about the money. Okay, it's not about the contracting out, like I told you. It's not about how they're constantly violating. It's not about the constant violations. It's not about the grievances we've been filing. It's not about the arbitration we're about to schedule. It's not about the perp charge we're filing and at this moment, you know, looking to schedule. You know, so that's been an increase in our attempts to reach out and sincerely work things out with the district. Within the last couple of years, we've had to escalate things And guess what? The district is spending thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers when they can just listen, engage in true, sincere conversation with us, and really work to figure things out with us. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Richard. Okay. My apologies. Okay, I've been trying to move Allison Green over. So Richard, I'm going to move you back first, and then I don't think I have room to move them over. So give me just one moment. And then Allison, you will be the last public comment of the evening. Hopefully this works. Yes, no. Allison, did you move over? No, it doesn't look like it. There we go. Allison, you've been moved over as a panelist. You can go ahead and speak when you're ready. Allison, can you hear us? You're muted.
I cede my time. Thank you.
To whom? You're the last public comment.
Well, then I'll speak. I came in during the pandemic, but that's me. I side with my fellow workers. I understand. I feel that they should be given a right to, stagger their time, whereas they're not all combined in a one space. That's not a good feeling. I mean, I was in one space, so I can say that I was in the library. It was just me there. So for them to all be in one space, that's, kind of like, whereas they won't put their best work forward because they're worried about if they're going to get it, so that's all that I have to say. I think that we should let them stagger their time. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is all the public comments we have for tonight.
Thank you. And thank you all for taking the time to put forth your comments. Right.
I'm sorry, President, I can barely hear you.
Oh, this is just bad. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all.
Cindy, it's actually not a lot better, and it might be a tech issue. It might be that somebody at on tech end can amplify the volume of your mic.
Second microphone, for some reason, they already switched it. So I'm going to move locations. Is it any better now?
That is.
Okay,
that's considerably better.
I will just be on top of the mic like this. Thank you all for your public communications and your comments, and for taking the time tonight to share that with us. Let's move on to 4.1, General Obligation Bond Program Update and request for approval of resolution. So there are two items on this particular agenda item. One is a presentation and the other one is an action for a resolution. So I'm thinking let's actually make a motion first. Yes, did I? Oh, that's right. Okay. I'm sorry, Chancellor Jackson. Let us move on to 314, Chancellor's reports.
Now let me unmute myself. So I'm going to put our presidents, I didn't see them on the panelist, and maybe that's just a limit that I have on my system, but they are here. And I know that Dr. Nathaniel Jones III was celebrating his daughter's graduation, so he is not here. So I would ask that Augustine Gill, who is the Vice President of Administrative Services, would start with the report for College of Alameda. And then we would go to Merritt College, followed by Berkeley City College. And then bringing up the end would be Laney College and Dr. Besikoff. So I will turn it over to you, Dr. Gill.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good evening, President Reese, trustees, Chancellor Jackson, colleagues, and guests. It's an honor and my pleasure to be here tonight and I'm pleased to provide this report for the College of Alameda on Dr. Jones' behalf. We have had several exciting events in May and June, and one of them was a trip to CSU Sacramento and UC Davis by a group of 24 Peralta students, faculty, and staff. And although originally organized as an opportunity for College of Alameda students, an invitation was extended to all Peralta students to participate. This was an exploratory trip, and the participating Peralta students learned about the outstanding amenities and educational opportunities that the universities offer. The visit inspired a greater interest in transfer and new hope for the next phase of their college education. And I would like to congratulate our team of COA Student Services Specialists, Ms. Mayra Arevalo Aypong, Mr. Horacio Corona Lira, Programs Director for Puente, and Project Manager, Mr. Louis Martinez, Mcfarland, and the Next Up Staff Assistant, Ms. Nancy Moore, for organizing this trip and putting everything together. This was a huge success for our students. And the next event I would like to highlight, and I was personally involved with that, I was present there, and that was the College of Alameda's Puente program, which celebrated its inaugural Puente banquet dinner on Wednesday, May 18th. This event celebrated the personal and academic accomplishments of Puente students and their families. And one of the highlights was that Dean Lily Aselhe was honored as Puente champion for 2021, and Marcine Bryant was honored as Puente champion for 2022. Both honorees were recognized for their outstanding commitment and contributions to College of Alameda's Puente program and students. And what I would like to share is remarks by one of the graduating students who was a gentleman in their 40s and has 3 jobs, but with the support and encouragement of our faculty and other staff, he got encouraged to complete his degree in 2 years' time. Even though he was working three jobs, he was tired in the evenings, was not sure if he could complete his assignments on time and graduate, but got all the support he needed and struggled through all the challenges to graduate. It was only possible because of our faculty and staff. He had tears in his eyes, and he was encouraging other prospective students to not give up and seek education based on whatever it takes. I would also like to add that families of our students deserve a big credit as they support their loved ones through those tough times. They sacrifice a lot and together accomplish amazing results. We're therefore very proud of our students, their families, faculty, and staff who make all this happen. And I would like to make 2 general announcements towards the end. The College of Alameda will be holding a financial aid popcorn and soda special on Wednesday, June 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in front of the A building. Current and prospective students and their parents are invited. This event will provide a great opportunity for students to receive assistance with any financial aid questions and complete their FAFSA DREAM Act applications. In addition, there will be plenty of popcorn, soda, fun games, and a raffle prize. Lastly, we are delighted to welcome Ms. Yolanda Young, who has joined the Administrative Services Division as the college's new full-time bursar. This concludes my report for the College of Alameda. Thank you.
All right, great job. So, okay. So good evening, President Napoli Reese, trustees, chancellor, colleagues, community members. Tonight, I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to our Director of Student Activities and Campus Life, Ms. Doris Hankins, as well as the rest of her planning team for all of their work for the virtual commencement and the campus celebration. Now, it's already been mentioned by Donald Moore, is a student observation that the in-person graduation event ultimately drew several hundred students, friends, and family members to Merritt, which was a far greater turnout than we had initially anticipated. But in the end, I think the event really underscored how eager our students are for genuine connection and the opportunity to celebrate their accomplishments. The graduates were treated to remarks by our ASMC president and now two-time PCCD student trustee, Lisa Hogan. And we were fortunate to also have Oakland Council member Lauren Taylor, trustee Linda Handy, trustee Kevin Jenkins, and Chancellor Jackson in attendance as well. So all in all, it was a huge undertaking, but I think the day could not have gone better. 2 weeks ago, several of our Merritt team members had the opportunity to attend the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity, or NCORE, which was held up in Portland. Now, the conference, I've been told, was offered a very welcoming and inclusive environment while emphasizing the importance of educators modeling a learning setting that was free of all forms of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. That's very important because we want to model that at Merritt College. So specifically, our team's objective was to hone in on how Merritt could create and sustain comprehensive institutional approaches to improve the racial and ethnic relations on our campus. So we look forward to doing that work and committed to availing ourselves of the tools and resources that the team will share and help implement at the college. Now, as we kick off the summer 2022 term, yesterday was the first day of summer school, I want to end with a quick snapshot of our enrollments. This is hot off the press. So as of this afternoon, our summer school resident FTES stood at 305.84. To put that in some context, that's nearly 87% of our target, our FTS target. Now we have a couple of classes that are going to be starting in a week, a couple other classes that were closed, but are being opened up for cohorts. So we anticipate that that number is going to approach 100%. Just as a note, we kept a number of lower enrolled sections, more than a dozen actually, kept those in the schedule as a result of student or program need. And we've even added a few sections to meet student demand where it was necessary. And finally, just be on the lookout, the publication EdSource is running a feature on Merritt College because we were one of the few community colleges in the state to actually have increased our headcount from fall 2020 and fall 2021. So that means in the midst of the pandemic, we actually had more students attending Merritt than we did the previous year. So with that, I'll say everybody have a good night, and I'll turn it over to President Garcia.
Thank you so much. Good evening, President Napolia Bellaris, trustees, chancellor, colleagues, and community members. For the BCC, in addition to the BCC report that you had in your packet, I just wanted to share a couple of highlights. And the first is really wanting to echo the sentiments of President Johnson and thank the BCC classified professionals and administrators for hosting a wonderful celebration for our graduates on Friday, May 27th. We were up at Merritt College, and so I actually also want to extend my thanks to your team at Merritt College for hosting us and assisting us, but most importantly, for just the chance to see students, the chance to celebrate with them, for them to put a culmination kind of end exclamation point to their time, not just at Berkeley City College, but throughout the system. There may have been 1 or 3 students from some of the other colleges that decided to come hang out and take pictures with us as well. So we were happy to have it be a family event. As President Johnson indicated, summer school has started this week, and so it has been really exciting to see students, faculty, and classified professionals on campus. Just today, I had the privilege of connecting with some students over the last couple of days getting to admissions and records, financial aid, getting to the one-stop counseling, and even assisting a new faculty member who joined us during the pandemic. And this was her very first day on campus teaching on the 3rd floor. So having a chance to just reconnect with some folks. Our enrollment, we are just above 82% of our targets. And so we're looking forward to continuing to increase those throughout this next week. So I just want to remind the community that we are open for summer schedule and ready to assist students to enroll. Part of those efforts included that we welcomed 60 Berkeley High students on June 13th, so just yesterday, from the Berkeley Adults Work Programs, an opportunity for students to enroll in courses this summer and launch their pathway into higher education. And I'd like to thank faculty member Dr. Joya Chavrin for her leadership and coordination of this to truly make us a place where our local Berkeley High students continue to see BCC as a part of their educational journey. As shared in the classified Senate report earlier, there were 4 Berkeley City College colleagues, Andrea Williams, Gail Pendleton, Michael Alviar, and Dominique Prince, who attended the Classified Leadership Institute. I'm grateful for their leadership and looking forward to supporting their efforts as a classified Senate. One of the examples that was shared earlier was undertaking possibly the Caring Campus initiative. So we're looking forward to supporting our classified professionals through their efforts. And I believe it was last year around this time that I shared with you all that we had a governance retreat. And so for the second time, we're now officially calling it an annual governance retreat, as it's going to get codified as such. Last Thursday, June 9th, we had governance chairs and co-chairs across faculty, classified professionals, and administrators come together for this annual retreat. It's a time where we review the surveys of our self-evaluation, the results of the survey. We addressed and looked at our revised governance manual, where we were able to codify spaces where there had been either working groups or ad hoc committees or advisory committees. And if they had gone through the governance process to become codified as such, we're making all of those live edits and really truly trying to map out what is the local decision-making process, how are we supporting from the college to the district. So we're excited to be rolling out that manual and continuing the work of participatory and shared governance. What I'm most thankful for were some of the discussions. We had some very intense and rich discussions on the roles of privilege and power and communication and race and racial equity in these spaces. And I feel like it was a time to really learn from one another. So in closing, I do want to wish all colleagues and community members who celebrate Father's Day a joyous time with their loved ones this weekend. I'd also like to acknowledge our LGBTQIA+ colleagues and community members during what is Pride Month right now. May you know that our community is bright and rich because of the diversity and engagement and presence that you bring. And lastly, of course, we know that on June 19th, we celebrate Juneteenth to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the United States. And while it's recognized as a national holiday, I hope we can all reflect on how our society has much to still grow to address reparations to the harm that our country's history has imposed upon African-American members of our community. So I wish you all a healthy and safe weekend. And that concludes my report for Berkeley City College. Thank you.
Good evening, Chancellor Jackson, President Napoli Abella-Reese, members of the governing board, colleagues in education, valued students, and treasured members of our community. The written board report you received tonight was kind of the graduation edition, if you will, of the Laney College board report, and touched on the great interactive graduation ceremony we had on May 27th in the athletics parking lot at Laney College. It was really an event where there were no bodies in seats. People came to the proceedings, and basically graduates and their families and friends and supporters, and in a lot of cases, classified professionals and professors who supported them along the way, walked through a parade route, if you will, where they were cheered on by Laney College employees, and then had opportunities for things such as selfies and other opportunities along the way before coming to the graduation platform and posing for photos. There was definitely no passive listening, if you will, going on during these festivities, and it was a great event. Certainly, I think of the many Laney College employees who contributed to this happening, and especially want to recognize Director Atia Rashada, as well as Evelyn Moreno in the Student Life Office. But also think of a number of great employees such as Mr. Alejandro Acosta, who spoke during public comment, who really kind of spearheaded a lot of the great music and the festive air that was about us, and it was outstanding. And of course, our celebration also was not complete without the attendance of Chancellor Jackson, as well as Trustee Handy. So all around, it was a great event, and one we certainly will remember for a while. Also, there were some other in-person events celebrating graduation among our learning communities on campus. Our Puente program continues to grow, and to Laura Gomez Contreras and the other staff members who contributed to that completion ceremony, we are certainly appreciative. And then last Friday, we also had the pleasure of celebrating, 2 Fridays ago, the Gateway to College graduation event. And that one was held in the Laney College Bistro. And it was really neat to see those students earn their high school diplomas, but do so with coursework that included Laney College transfer courses such as English. And then also to see those students take initiative for their coursework, to take classes such as poli-sci, geography, anthropology, and history. It was a great event attended not only by graduates, but also by families and friends. And among the 11 or so Gateway to College staff, I think they were like family and friends to these graduates. And that was something that was truly inspiring to see. Many of these students will continue at Laney College and Berkeley City College, and certainly want to extend congratulations to them as they move forward. One individual to spotlight in this program of Gateway to College is Dr. William Ramos Ochoa. And if you happen to be awake at 2 a.m. tomorrow or at 2 p.m. and tune in to 96.9 FM, KGPC, I interviewed Dr. Ramos Ochoa as part of my podcast, and that will be on the air. And then you can also, it's also archived, and you will be able to download and listen to it at your leisure. So it's something that was really great, and certainly want to say thank you to Felicia Bridges with KGPC for her support as we've kind of moved along in this project of the President's Desk podcast for Laney College. So, excuse me. Finally tonight, I think this is the first time I've ever done a board report with a handout. And I've already given one to President Napoli Bellarice, as well as Trustee Withrow, and I'll have a copy as well for Chancellor Jackson and members of the board. And you've often heard me say in previous reports that at Laney, when we come together and work on things, that great stuff happens. And so our graphic arts program, the great faculty in that department had a capstone project. And one thing that's wonderful about career and technical education and a lot of disciplines that work on project-based learning is that there is that capstone project, that culminating project that happens. Well, students in the graphic arts program, through digital and also handwritten design or sketch design, came together with a number of different designs for what's known as the Laney's Cookin' Cookbook. And that is actually what I've handed to you today. And I think it's something that's really neat. And the students who contributed to this were enrolled in Graphic Arts 112, which is Creative Processes and Solutions. Now, you might be saying, okay, graphic arts all well and good, but what about the coming together? Well, in addition to thanking the many students in Graphic Arts 112, as well as the faculty in the Graphic Arts department, classified professionals, faculty, and administrators came together to contribute recipes from cosmetology, legal and community interpreting, the Dean of Humanities and Social Science, Laney Health Services, the library staff, culinary arts, of course, if it's a cookbook, right? The counseling department, English for speakers of other languages, as well as the music department. All of these fine colleagues, as well as some students in the graphic arts class, all contributed recipes. And you can see, looking at this, that you will have access to a 5-course meal if you are so inclined. So again, just want to say thanks to the many individuals who brought this together, and special commendation to our graphic arts colleagues who really came up with a great creative project that really showed off the best of our students as well as our colleagues. And with that tonight, I will conclude my report.
Thank you, Presidents. Just before I turn it back over to you, President Reese, I want to congratulate Dr. Donald Moore for his reelection as the District Academic Senate President. Look forward to working with him. We did have a very productive meeting with all the Academic Senate presidents, the Vice President of Instruction at the colleges, as well as the presidents and key district office staff. And the discussion centered around the resurrection of the Dempsey Committee, which is the District Enrollment Management Committee. So what Donald was talking about is the commitment in the fall of resurrecting that particular committee, getting members assigned to it, and then really looking at our FTES, our goals, and establishing that collaborative working environment that he referenced. So just wanted to say congratulations again and happy Juneteenth for everyone out there. And I will turn it back over to you. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Chancellor Jackson. Can you hear me okay? You are going to be so jealous because I have in my hand this wonderful cookbook that you are just going to be very amazed at. Just a few things again to the presidents, because I love hearing what you always have to say every time we have a board meeting. Congratulations again for the incredible celebrations. 2 of them I was able to attend, the other 2 I was not. But again, a shout out to all of you, also Director Rodrigo and his team over at TOA, Atia Rashado, as you had said, and her team over at Laney, Doris Hankin and her team over at Merritt, and Veronica Montaya and John Ryan over at BCC, because these were fabulous celebrations. And as you were saying, it was a wonderful way to actually see the authenticity of connection that our students so very much desire. So congratulations. And again, just thank you for all of the things that you continue to do. Keep on keeping on, because it's fabulous for us to hear at our end. All right, now let us go on to 4.1. I was a little in a rush to get there earlier on. So as I was saying, there are 2 items that are associated with 4.1. One is a presentation and the other is a resolution. So, and we vote on the resolution. So I'm assuming that we are going to do a motion first, and then during discussion, we'll do the presentation and questions, and then the resolution will be stated, and then we can vote on the resolution. And Nikki, if you could let me know if there's something that we need to do in terms of the procedural aspect of that, most certainly let me know, because I know Natasha's not here, or Royal, if you could let me know too as well. So can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez, UN. And then discussion will be the presentation and then the questions for the presentations. So I'll give this over to Keith Kajia and the whole team. IVC, Etheria Smith, Vincent McCarley.
Keith, would you like me to share my screen, or did you want to go ahead and do that?
Well, let's see if I can have my technology work today.
Before you begin, Keith, let me just give the board just a quick little historical. This year in the spring, we presented 3 presentations. One was on the Moody's report, the other one was on the OPED, and then we also did one on the GO bonds. The board at that meeting asked for us to come back and provide an update, which is what is happening now. And as part of that update and discussion, we're also asking the board to approve a resolution for us to go out for another issuance of bonds. So this presentation will not only address some of the questions that the board had asked us to address at the last meeting regarding the bond update for Measure A and Measure G, but also Vincent McCarthy, who is a part of our bond advisors, will also be providing an update and a presentation, and it will be an integrated presentation, not only with what's happening with the bonds and a status by Keith and AECom, but also the resolution to move forward with the issuance of our bonds in the fall semester. So with that, unless you have anything you wanted to add, Interim Vice Chancellor Smith.
No, I will just say it's a pleasure to work with Backstrom and to get us to this point in requesting this resolution and our second issuance. And also, I'm looking forward to introducing also AECom to show you the support and the things we've done and moving things forward. So Backstrom and AECom, Keith, take it away.
Okay, thank you, IVC Smith. Can everyone see my screen? I want to make sure my technology is working. I hope I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
So, good evening. It's a pleasure to speak with you again to talk about our bond program. What I've talked about in the past is actually more specifically dividing our capital program into two phases. And this is becoming more and more important as we see some of the uncertainties in the construction market, both that are a result of COVID, also some of the things that are going on globally in the world related to supply chain issues we're having with equipment, other process and procedure issues as well. So we've divided the capital program into two discrete phases, with phase one focusing on those projects where we were leveraging state matching funds, and certainly those other projects that were within the footprint of some of those same projects, as well as some of the priority infrastructure repairs that were on each campus. And in essence, this is kind of set aside about 59% of our capital program for this first phase that is currently active and under development in some capacity. So I'll be highlighting kind of the status of those projects this evening for you. As far as the phase one projects, it's about roughly $587 million of capital spend. Here are some of the highlights of what we've done so far. You've seen many of these statistics in the past, but we wanted to talk a bit about some of the accomplishments. So for the projects that we have been moving, for those expenses that we've been making, certainly with the last tranche of the Measure A funds and the first tranche of Measure G, the $115 million that we sold back in May of 2020. These are some of those things that we were spending the money on, district-wide notable information technology refreshes, a PeopleSoft upgrade. You can see here by each college campus, some of the pre-construction activities that were going on the number of campuses, with the exception of the College of Alameda, where we used some of the Measure A last tranche to complete the new Center for Liberal Arts building on their campus. But much of it was focused on the pre-construction side, that is the design, upfront consulting, DSA reviews for the capital projects, as well as advancing some of the infrastructure projects at each of the campuses. And so some of those things are highlighted here. You can see they're bond eligible repairs that are more systemic repairs to systems at the colleges, but certainly the bulk of the money was spent on the pre-construction services to advance our major capital projects. When we look at the $115 million of bonds sold, you can see here the division of the two bond measures. Measure A, which was the $65 million that was sold in May of 2020, and Measure G, the $50 million, which was the first tranche of Measure G, the $800 million bond measure. We've spent, you can see there, roughly about half of the money in total, with current available cash balances indicated here. We are prioritizing now the Measure A spend. In fact, we've been working closely over the last month or so to really get in alignment with IVC, Ahmed, and Finance to make sure that as we move forward with the next fiscal year budget, that we expedite the Measure A spending, and then we start looking at what the sizing really is going to be for the second tranche of Measure G. Here's a reprojection of our cash flow. This cash flow is a fairly fluid document, right? It is something that we update formally on a quarterly basis, but we and publish it on a quarterly basis, but we actually update this on a monthly basis as we continue to track the spending of the capital program. It's impacted by a number of issues. Some things are procedural related to, for example, some of the challenges we've had on our state funded projects with the Department of Finance, the State Chancellor's Office on getting milestone approvals. Also some of the challenges that we've had with unforeseen conditions on some of our project sites. But in total, you can see here, we're really starting to still forecast, as I had anticipated before, exhaustion of our current funds by the fall of 2022, basically later this calendar year. And so it's the reason that we're here before you this evening to talk about selling the next bond issuance, right? We always want to make sure that we have enough money to cover expenses on a 12-month rolling basis moving forward. That's something certainly that we're continuing to project and work closely with Backstrom on sizing what the size of that bond issue is going to be. You can see here, one thing that might be a little bit different is there's a blip in Q1 of 22-23. This is a kind of a reprojection of our previous cash flow. The blip represents an investment in technology. We had, through discussions with Chancellor Jackson, certainly some of the feedback we've seen from some of the colleges and district IT, that there is a need for some infrastructure investment at the colleges. We're making a very specific request to allocate $12 million of spend in that quarter so we can have technology installed at the colleges in time for the fall semester. So that's what that's flipping up there slightly. The following slides are really for that phase one group of projects. It's just to provide a little bit more transparency in the actual spend, both historically and moving forward, and those discrete projects for each college campus. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but you can see here, for example, for the College of Alameda, the exponential ramp of the spend from previous fiscal years to fiscal year 21-22, and exponentially up to fiscal year 22-23 and beyond. And that represents, as we start to move these projects that we've had on the capital side from that pre-construction phase into construction, we're going to start to see an exponential spend on the capital construction side. And you'll see this in each of these exhibits for each college campus. I'm really just showing these tables so there's a little more transparency related to what those projects specifically are, how we're forecasting the spend. So these slides, I want to kind of highlight some of the kind of status of the projects. And it was important to develop what we call this kind of RAG graphic, if you will, a red, amber, green kind of a traffic signal, if you will, right? To give you a sense of where the projects are. So the projects where they may be right on track and full steam ahead, things are going great, things where there's some impacts that are indicated with the double arrow yellow kind of graphic, and then things where we've actually had challenges. And the baseline for these metrics is basically back in 2020, you may recall one of the early bond spending plans that I developed and established. The initial plan for the capital program was presented to the board back in July of 2020. And that for me was kind of the reference of where we were tracking our performance against. This is where I'm kind of comparing what we indicated back then and where we currently are. You can see here that there's a number of red items, there's some yellow, there are some greens. It's also why, frankly, that we've divided the capital program into the two discrete phases, because we've seen some pretty unprecedented changes in our capital program related to cost escalation, some of the impacts that we've experienced on specific projects. For example, on the College of Alameda, the new auto diesel technologies building, and the aviation complex for the state project. You can see that the new auto diesel building is 6 months behind. The aviation complex for the state funded project is 21 months behind. And that's against that baseline schedule that I had established back in June of 2020. The reason for the state funded projects falling behind is that the state chancellor's office has kind of extended their milestone approval process, which we anticipated to be, which was historically before, anywhere from a few weeks to maybe a month or two to, in some cases, 6 to 8 months. And so it's really caused an impact to some of our projects as we move them through that final phase to actually get to the construction bidding cycle. For the aviation complex on the state funded project, that project has been impacted due to a physical change on the site. The water table has risen significantly 10 feet in that area. It's causing a pause in our design process to reevaluate how we will mitigate the flood zone increase that's in that specific site. So there's a number of site unknowns that are coming up that we're addressing. What we're doing is indicating that they are red, but rest assured that part of why we have now the phase 2 is that we're kind of setting aside funding to address these phase 1 projects. You've heard me in the past talk about the importance of making sure that all the projects that we move forward in phase 1, that we will complete them. And we won't necessarily start a phase 2 projects unless we complete those as well. As I step through each college, pretty much the same format here. You can see for Berkeley City College, an exponential increase in their spend, really represented through the Milvia Street design build project. Also for each campus, you'll see a blip in their information technology spend that we're anticipating. I will note that for Berkeley City College, we're also looking at a slight modification of even this cash flow. The board will probably be seeing very shortly a measure that's coming forward to them related to an expedited spend for some of the early procurement items for the design build contract. This is a mitigation measure that we're considering, where we're trying to buy out materials earlier in the life cycle of the project so that we're not subjected to some of these downstream delays and pricing increases that we might have if we were to wait until we did the formal bidding later in the project cycle. So these are some of those examples of mitigation measures, but it certainly would increase the Berkeley City College spend in the near-term fiscal year, something that we're working on closely with IVC Med right now, actually. Here you see Berkeley City College. The cost status is yellow at the moment. We are trending some higher costs for that project, but as I mentioned, we're working on some mitigation measures for that. We anticipate that still at this time that we're still able to bring in the project within the current contingencies that are currently set aside for that project. Laney, obviously a lot of activity on Laney College, multiple state funded projects. Again, you can see the state increased ramp in spending as well. This is a reflection of the state funded projects, including some projects that have actually bid. For example, the third project down, the East Bay Mud Water main relocation. We actually have bid that project and received bids. Those bids were significantly higher than we had budgeted. So again, this is why we have the 2 phases. We are moving that project forward. All the state funded projects are also going through DSA, but this campus overall has been impacted by the discovery of a seismic zone within the campus footprint of some of the new projects. It was a late discovery by the California Geologic Survey. So we're addressing some of the foundation designs for the Laney Locker Room, the Learning Resource Center, the Central Plant Modernization and Cooling Tower project, indeed the theater modernization. These are all being impacted by that as we kind of reassess some of the foundation designs, as these were things that were discovered during the final DSA review plan check cycle. So it was discovered kind of late in the game by the state that they notified us of the discovery of this fault line, but we are mitigating that currently. And this kind of new schedule that's shown here on the profile reflects some of those impacts that we've experienced to date. You'll see here that when we show this schedule, that's kind of reflective of some of these state funded projects where you can see how many months behind that they are from the previous target that we established a couple of years ago back in 2020. For Merritt College, again, it's also showing an exponential jump in the project spend. I think notably for the Merritt College, the Child Development Center has actually been bid, and it's one of the first capital projects that we'll be actually breaking ground on. The horticulture complex, it's out of DSA. We're also waiting for the State Department of Finance release for funding for that project, but 2 major state funded projects that'll be advancing, and that represents the lion's share of their capital spend moving forward in the near-term fiscal years. And you can see here again, those same types of delays that are associated with the Department of Finance extended delay process, where they're not approving milestones in the same timeline that they had previously, but we are mitigating many of those issues. It's notable though that I think you've heard me talk about the impact of construction escalation, the projections that we had of roughly 25% escalation increase in construction costs over the last rolling 12 months. It's something that's really kind of new in our market, right? It's just exponentially higher than what we had previously assumed, certainly what we were experiencing 2 years ago when we set the budgets for these projects. But again, it's why we're dividing the program into 2 discrete phases.
Keith, before you move on from Merritt, I also would like to share that we received to move to the next phase for the horticulture just lately from the state. So we are going to go into construction and bid. So we're very pleased that although it's been a delay, we finally received our next phase to move forward. So thanks, Keith.
Finally.
So it is moving.
This slide indicates the phase 2 projects that are currently in abeyance, the $400 million that we've set aside, that we're waiting for some of these bids to come in. So we have some cost certainty on the phase 1 projects. Just know that we are continuing to look at these projects for scoping so that we can really hit the ground running when we do decide we might want to release some of these projects moving forward. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Olson or Vincent to talk about the history of our cash expenditures by fiscal year as we start to size the next bond issuance for Measure G.
Yes. Thanks. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I was going to start with the next couple of slides. My name's Dave Olson, and you've heard from me in the past. I work with Baxter McCarley Berry with Vincent. We're the financial advisor with respect to the district's bond program. So as Keith indicated, at this point in the presentation, we want to move from the projects being planned for to the plan to fund those projects, which is, of course, to issue a second series of bonds under 2016 Measure G in the fall semester of the district school year. Slide 15 talks a little bit about where we've been since our last sale, which was in May of 2020. The district sold $115 million of bonds. That included the last $65 million under 2006 Measure A and the first $50 million under 2016 Measure G. And we've been spending money, have about half our money left, spent $60 million out of the $115 million borrowed. And that you see from the table, we've spent money at about $2 million a month, a burn rate of about $2 million a month, a little bit higher than that. And so what we've talked about in the past and what Keith just talked about is a plan to really accelerate payments, accelerate the burn rate in the next year as a lot of these construction projects start to break ground. And we show that on the next slide, Keith, if you move to slide 16. So you can see from the table at the right that we moved from this $2 million a month expenditure pattern to a much faster pace. On the very right-hand column, $8 million, $10 million a month, $12 million a month over the next year. So with $55 million left in the bank, we're obviously within a year of spending all that money. We're soon to be within 6 months of spending all that money. And as you may have recalled me talking about in the past, what we want to do is we want to issue bonds within that 6 to 12 month period of time. So there's good overlap so that there's always enough funds to move on with the next project, regardless of the schedule. And that's what Vincent's going to talk about is a schedule to try to get money in the bank by the end of September. We want to put together a plan to move expeditiously on this next bond issue, but we don't want to rush things. Obviously, there are some reasons, good reasons to put money in the bank a little sooner, especially with interest rates moving up and with tax rates getting set for the next tax year. So Vincent, you want to talk about the schedule, the tentative schedule we've developed?
Yes, thanks, Dave. On this page, what we have is a tentative schedule for the next series of bonds, Series B. Again, the previous series under Measure G was issued in May of 2020, which again was an amount of $50 million. We have not sized yet the amount that we'll plan to issue under Series B. But again, this is an outline of the schedule doing that. Within this schedule, we'll likely have some slippage within the schedule, and that's sort of built in within our timeframes here. But we're contemplating, as they mentioned, roughly closing
the transaction mid-September. And again, there's a little bit of flux within that. One of the key pieces, if you'd like to skip to the next page here, Keith, is that there's a deadline for the county for getting on the rolls on the tax levy. And since we might have some slippage in our schedule, what we have here is basically a resolution, which would be an action item for the board for your consideration, which would allow us to provide an estimated debt service schedule to the county so that they can use that as a not to exceed estimate for creating the tax levy going into the 22-23 year. The value of doing that is that consistent what we did on Series A in 2020, we were able to accelerate the amount of bonds that were amortized early. And so we hope that we're able to do that once again for Series B. And if we're able to accomplish that, we estimate that we would save the taxpayers of the district roughly about $17 million and by taking this approach. And to sort of put that in perspective, when we did Series A, we used a similar approach, and in August of this year, we will have amortized roughly 80% of that 50 million in those first couple of years. And we're trying to replicate that in this Series B. And again, it's a tremendous tax savings benefit to the district's property owners. And with that, I think we're open to questions that you might have. So back to you, either VC Smith or Chancellor, or back to the President.
I'll stop sharing.
Thank you for that. Trustees, do you have any questions? Trustees, any questions? Don't see any, but I have just a couple questions, and I'm not Keith, I'm sure you'll be able to answer the first one, and then maybe the second one would be for David and Vincent. So Keith, I guess as I look at the graph with the bars, I think what is concerning to me is that there were many arrows that were pointing downward that were impacted. And as you explained, impacted for a variety of different reasons. And then as I look over to the right-hand side, especially for the projects where there are 3 columns of red arrows pointing downward, it's a bit disconcerting because there are 21 months, 19 months, and I know that there are also reasons beyond your control because of the Department of Finance. I guess the question that I have then would be, we're not going to start with the phase 2 until all of the phase 1 is complete, as you just stated. And I know that we have contingencies, but really, frankly, are we going to have enough within the phase 1 to pay for all those phase 1 projects, even with the delays, even with the impacts, even with the challenges, so that it doesn't start to pick at our phase 2 monies? Was that clear?
Sure. I mean, so what we're doing right now is kind of that assessment, right? And I wouldn't say we're completing phase 1 before we start phase 2, right? We are trying to get cost certainty on the construction pricing for phase 1, because again, the bond spending plan has about over $150 million of contingencies built into it, right? So where you saw some of those yellow items, we actually anticipate mitigating those items. Where they're red, we're thinking there's some potential risk still out there. And you've seen in the past, I've done that little waterfall chart that kind of shows where we're projecting our risk register and some things that may or may not happen. I think we make a judgment call at what point during phase 1, certainly when we have the lion's share of the projects that are actually bid, they're not physically completed with construction, but they're bid. At that point, we have a fairly good certainty of what the pricing is going to be, because we can absorb any changes or unforeseens at that point with our contingencies that are built into the current budgets. So I wouldn't say you're going to complete phase one projects until you start phase two, right? We would probably overlay that quite a bit, but we certainly want to have a construction cost certainty when we move into those next projects, so that we can really start to allocate and know how much money we're going to have left in phase two.
And part of that assessment, you will keep us posted, because part of the assessment and part of the assessment of the risk and the cost could actually mean that you may not complete a project, or that you may.
No, I don't think we'd ever be in a situation where we wouldn't complete certainly a phase one project. At this point, we're at no risk, in my opinion, to not complete a phase one project, right? It's the phase two projects that are kind of on the bubble, if you will, right? And we would have to work through the shared governance process with each college to prioritize those projects and decide, not necessarily that they won't happen, but as Dave has said many times in the past as well, and I echo the same sentiment, is that this is a multi-bond funded kind of effort, right? We do have 2 bond measures that we're currently working with, but it's not to say that the plan was never not to have like even another future bond in the future as well, because the district continues to have needs even beyond those phase 1 and 2 projects that we've currently defined. There's continual needs that are being defined. Indeed, I think in the past, I've also spoken about the need for the infrastructure improvements and kind of the shortfall, frankly, that we have in our current bond spending plan to address some of those infrastructure improvements that are the result of some previously legacy maintenance issues, things that just weren't addressed, or systems that are just so old they need to be replaced, right? So I think it's a continued effort to be forward-looking and to also think of, yes, with the money we have 2 phases, but we have multiple phases moving forward, because we're going to continue to have needs that are assessed, and the evolution of indeed education and how the district ultimately decides on how they want to deliver education, right, through their educational master plans through each college, and the evolution of that. Certainly we've seen that with COVID, right, the changing in how education was delivered. So it's important to continue to factor those things in as we move forward. That's why I do view this kind of as a living document, right? It doesn't mean that we stamp something in place, and that's why we have a phase 1. But I will certainly be on top of reporting back to the chancellor, the presidents, the cabinet, and indeed the trustees of the status of what's going on, and more importantly, our ability to complete which projects and when with the current monies that we have.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward again to the next update.
And President Reese, your concern is well-founded. When we went over the slides, which we've done a couple of times and made some changes, I specifically asked if we could address that, because I knew that just as it popped out to me, that it would also be something that the board would have a concern with. And so we are putting into place, and I spoke a little bit about it in closed session regarding an operational update based upon our goals and objectives, so that we will not be caught off or unawares, and that we will get back to the board with that, because I've been around the block a couple of times. In fact, I won't tell you how many times, but I will make sure that our contingency is there, as Keith indicated, that we haven't touched. But I also know how quickly change orders can affect, those types of issues. I also wanted to point out the other reason that David and Vincent brought up, and maybe not as strongly as I'd like, so I'm going to say something about it. It will be to our advantage strategically if we can show to the taxpayers that we have saved them, because we still need to publicize an update, millions of dollars because of the amortization schedule. That would bode well for us now and in the future if we wanted to go back out, because it shows that we are good stewards of public funds. Yes. So I want to thank AECOM, Keith, Dave, and Vincent IVC Smith. We pulled this item because we wanted to get it right. And we wanted to give the board, to the best of our abilities, where we are, validating our numbers, cross-referencing them with our finance department, splitting them out by measure A, measure G, what our accomplishments are, and assuring the board that our staff is ready. We've talked to finance, IVC Ahmed and his staff are ready to go. They've done it before. We think we can meet these timelines, and we just need to get the green light to start the process from the board. So.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear. And then to Vincent and David. Vincent, you had said this just a second ago. You weren't sure about the how much for the Series B. At some point, will we get that? I mean, of course, we will get that amount, but we will, right? I'm not going to answer.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
What you will receive, because we'll need to come back to the board at least 2 more times before we sell the bonds.
Okay.
Similar to what we did with Series A, we've outlined in our schedule a first reading and a second reading before the actual passing of the sale resolution related to the bonds. That's not, the resolution that's before you today, which is for setting an estimate not to exceed relative to the tax levy. That's a single reading for today. The board, acts upon that. But we will be coming back to the board at least 2 more times to approve the actual issuance of Series B.
Okay. Thank you. We will see all of you again soon.
Yes.
Many a time. Trustees, are there any other questions? I'm looking back and forth between my computer and Overtorial. Okay. Let us vote on this then, on the resolution. Sasha?
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Jenkins.
Did I miss the motion?
Yes, it was stated beforehand.
Okay, yes.
Trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Yes.
trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, board members. And thank you, team.
Yes.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Okay, let's move on to 4.2. Consider approval of the PCCD 22-23 tentative budget. Chancellor.
So moved.
Second. May I have a second for 4.2? Only 2 of us here.
Second.
Thank you. And roll call or discussion. I'm sorry. Discussion and the presentation. Chancellor, will this be presented by Vice Chancellor Adil? And
Yes, it will. I want to publicly thank Interim Vice Chancellor Ahmed. As you know, he had a bit of a health issue. He had a collapsed lung, and even with the collapsed lung, I had to direct him and get his wife to keep him from coming into the office. But I couldn't keep him off the phone. And he was working with his right hand, and that is Dr. Marla Williams Powell. And so they are going to co-present the tentative budget for 2022 and 23. And they will go over assumptions. They will give you an overview, and in your packet, there is the actual detailed tentative budget. And I just want to remind you, this is a tentative budget. Things are still in discussion. And then once the state passes their budget, then we will come back in September with a final budget with the final adjustments as they're going through the legislation and then people are positioning themselves right now. So with that, I will turn it over. I believe that Dr. Williams Powell is going to start, and then we'll transition over to IVC Med.
Good evening, trustees, chancellor, colleagues, and Peralta community members. I'll begin by talking about the tentative budget. Sasha, next slide, please. The tentative budget, excuse me, actually focuses on several areas, including post-pandemic recovery, equity and student success, increased transfer capacity and pathways, and workforce preparedness. Next slide, please. So assumptions utilized in the initial development of the tentative budget for 22-23 were based on the January governor's budget proposal. And those assumptions, and I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here. The assumptions reflect the estimates that were initiated by the January proposal. Assumptions will be adjusted accordingly based on the revision of the adopted budget, which should be enacted in the next couple of weeks. It has to be, I believe, signed by the end of the month. And at that point in time, we'll be able to get the legislative document assumptions and work them into our adopted budget. But the applied assumptions from the general governor's budget resulted in 22-23 unrestricted ending fund balance is projected to be at $25.9 million. The 21-22 unaudited actuals is expected to be no less than the 10% reserve, meeting the board's policy on the required reserve level. And the district will continue to use planning documents, collaborative planning, planning meetings for the development of expenditure budgets throughout the participatory governance process, excuse me. Recommendations from the budget allocation model task force will inform data analysis needed to fully implement and adopt the resource allocation model for 23-24. Next slide, please. These slides provide a summary comparison of assumptions between the governor's January budget and the May revised proposal. The January budget proposal included a $286 billion budget with a surplus of $45.7 billion, a COLA of 5.33%, enrollment growth of 5.5%, $842 million on ongoing spending, $983 million on one-time funding, and $373 million in one-time capital outlay for 18 continuing projects throughout the CC system. May revised proposal includes a $300.7 billion budget with a surplus of $49.2 billion, a COLA of 6.56%, enrollment growth remains 0.5%, with $1.3 billion in ongoing spending, $2.9 billion in one-time funding, and $403 million in one-time capital outlay, funding 19 projects with design completion by the spring of 2023. Again, the fiscal impact of the May revise will be analyzed and presented with the 22-23 adopted budget upon approval of the governor's state budget in June. Next slide, please.
Good evening, trustees, chancellor, colleagues, and community members. So this is our Skiff calculations. As you know, the part 1 is based on enrollments, 70% district-wide. And the part 2, the supplementals, is 20%. And the part 3, student success, is only 10%. Next slide, please. This is the student funding formula that we used since 2018 to 2019, and it's still continuing 70, 20, and 10%. And the state guaranteed the district-wide in California that we will get 17, 18 total computational revenue if our enrollment decline, adding in addition to the COLA. So that was our guaranteed from 18, 19 to get 17, 18 total computational revenue. Next slide. This is our calculations, Skiff calculations. As you can see, we have 5.33% COLA. For the non-credit FTS totals, we get over $87 million. Supplemental allocations, we are getting roughly a little bit shy of $16 million. Could you go a little bit down, please, Sasha? And the student success allocations, could you? It's $11.2 million. So our total before hold harmless is over $114 million. So the hold harmless funding is about $19.7 million. More you declining, more you getting COLA, more your hold harmless is going up, is growing. So we have a total, our Skiff total is over $134 million. So let me explain, what is the Skiff? What the Skiff composed of? The Skiff composed of 4 things. You have the property taxes, you have the APA, which passed in 2008 for the sales tax to fund the education. And also we have the enrollment. And lastly, the state apportionments. That's the 4 things that represent the Skiff. Next slide, please. This is the verifications. Did our calculations, Skiff calculations, correct? So this is an evidence that show that our Skiff calculations that you saw above is absolutely correct. We taking the 17, 18 total computational revenue, but the state guaranteed us when they started implement in 18, 19 the Skiff. So we had to add only the COLA of each year. So by adding the COLA of each year, as you can see, the total computational revenue TCR for 22-23 will be the same value that you had on the first on the slide, on the Skiff slide, over $184.5 million. So this is a verification that we have to do to prove to the auditors or to prove to the Chancellor office that we're matching with those numbers when we're doing our calculation. Next slide, please. I will let Marla to take on January 5-year projections.
Okay, so this is a multi-year projection for 5 years that is based again on the January governor's proposal. So the third column with the under projections, we see that our total revenues are 155,296, that's 155 million. Our total expenditures are 154.9 million. Our ending fund balance is projected to be 25.9 million. And that's translates into a 16.73% fund balance percentage. What's considered into, what assumptions are considered into this projection? The state revenues are for 22-23 include the 5.33% COLA. And as mentioned a few times, we know that the May revise is proposed to have a COLA of 6.56. The local revenue, which includes out-of-state student tuition, international student tuition, miscellaneous revenues, actually increase about 5% annually starting in 23-24. Expenditure assumptions, Full-time academic include a 3.33 COLA and the hiring of 11 new faculty positions with the cost and benefits of about $1.4 million. All other personnel costs include a 3.33% COLA. Now, out of the 5.33% COLA that's part of the proposal, there's 2% is not passed through to personnel expenditures, as it's reserved for the completion of the compensation study that's currently underway. In terms of the debt services, that increases annual bond payment begins in 23-24 in order for us to become self-sufficient without requesting the retiree board to cover the total debt payment. Other outgo includes contribution to DSPS, $1.2 million, property insurance and post-retiree contributions. Contingency reserve for unforeseen expenditures is at $400,000. All expenditures increase 4% every year from 23-24, which represents 2% COLA, 2% step increase, except for bad debt, other outgo, contingency reserve, and contributions. The percent of the fund balance will decrease if the total expenditures increase. And the formula to determine the percentage of the fund balance for each fiscal year is the ending fund balance divided by the total expenditures. Next slide, please.
This is the 23 tentative budget of fund balance. As you can see, our fund balance is growing year after year, which is a good thing for Peralta. And next slide. This is, I had to do a 9 years comparisons. I wanted to compare our FTS declinements compared to the FTF. As you can see, the 320 attendance reports from 2014 to 2015 is declining. We went from 19.5 thousand FTS to we're projecting an estimate, I may not be correct, but I'm projecting for 22-23 to be at 10,500. So if you look at that, you will see that we will have a reduction in FTS. We had a reduction on FTS, not 58.1%. This is a typo. It's 46.1%. Our reduction in FTS. If you compare it with the FTF for the same years, you see that our FTF declined or reduced by 19.6%. FTF full-time faculty, it's only by 19.6% that we reduced compared to the FTS at 46.1%. Next slide, please. Here is what I wanted to prepare for the board and for everybody here to make sure that I take the May revise. I wanted to prepare a 5-year projection based on the May revise. As you can see, our projection for 22-23, our fund balance is going up for projection. Why? Because we're getting more funding from the state. We're getting 250,000 millions for the base increase, a Skiff base increase. And also we're getting 125 million for basic increase, which is not part of this 5-year projection. Reason? Because we don't know how much we're gonna get. I don't want to speculate because the way the state calculate that is based on the size and the center of each district. So I couldn't go and estimate. Based on my estimation was between 1.2 and 1.7. So I just left it alone and make sure that when we get from the state by June, we will know how much Peralta will get as a district, because we have 4 colleges. What would be that increase for PCCD? As you can see, our revenues is increasing. because we're getting more money from the state. And we're spending also more money. So what is included in the revenue is the 6.56% COLA plus 3.33% base increase is included in the revenue side. But in the expenditure side, we included 6.56% COLA, which is mean that 2% that the chancellor wanted that for the study that we're doing for the salary schedules, and 4.56% for COLA. So in total, we budgeted 6.56% on the expenditure side. So as you can see, our fund balance is increasing, and we're not jumping from the cliff, because the reason we're not jumping from the cliff is because in 24-25, based on the governor and based on May revise, we've been told and we've been said that the new base or the new floor for 25-26 will include the hold harmless, which is a good thing for the entire district in California. In the past, we didn't know that because they were saying that our total computation revenue will be the base for 25-26, not including the hold harmless. That's why that we have a healthy fund balance, and Peralta is moving forward in 25-26 with 17.60%. And we include on this from 23-24, we include 3% increase COLA, and we also putting on the expenditure side 4% on the expense side. What's those 4%? 2% COLA and 2% step increase. We're increasing in a yearly basis about $1 million for the step and column. So that's where we're gonna end. Our fund balance will be healthy. And this did not include the $125 million that the chancellor office is giving the district, because that is based on the size of each district and is based on FTS, and there's a lot of calculation, and we were expecting to get that from the chancellor office before June, so we can then know how much we're getting as a district. Next slide, please. So I wanted to compare also in here employee effective FTE by union code. So I just took 3 years because I didn't have the chance to go back for 10 years because I had to do a lot of research for the 10 years. So I took the last 3 years. As you can see, the administrations are going down. We started with 2021, 97, 2022, 96, and 2023, 95. We're going down. Confidential is staying the same. Local 39 is decreasing by 2 FTE. And then the Peralta Federation of Teachers, we started with 385 in 2021, 2022 went down 374, and now we're going up. SEU, we went with 387 in 2021, 2022 went up 397, now we're going down 2023 by 393. So Peralta has a huge personal cost, which is very important because benefits is also expensive. But based on what we're getting from the state level, the basic aid increase and the base amount increase, and that we are allowed a new, even though it's under discussion, if they're not gonna give the districts that new floor with the hold harmless, it will be a lot of layoffs. And I'm sure that we will get the new floor will be with the hold harmless. Imagine our hold harmless is only $19.7 million. How much is gonna be in 24-25? If we continue declining and we're getting COLA, it will go more than $25-26 million. So with the hold harmless, that will be our new floor and new base. I think Peralta is moving forward with a good fund balance. We just need to manage it. Next slide. Any questions?
Trustees? You have a question? Okay. Trustees? I can't see who has a question, so. You have a question? Okay. There's a question from Trustee Withrow. I have a few, but I'll save mine for later.
To what degree do you think that the economy that we've got going right now with tremendous inflation and actually the projections from a lot of the in quote experts are that the 8.8% increase in whatever is very shallow compared to what they see coming up over the next few months, few years. How are you going to, you know, there is a 16% reserve. My concern is not so much a percentage, because most of it's in people. Most of our costs are in people. But the state gets most of their, I shouldn't say most of their, a good share of their monies coming in from capital gains, which are going to drop dramatically. How are you going to account for all that?
Trustee Withrow, you and I are on track for that. Individuals look at the fund balance and say, my God, you have, you know, 16% or 17%, almost 17%. And as I said, I've been around the block, and this governor, if indeed the projections that we're hearing from economists come to fruition, those projections will be, if you recall, when Governor Brown was in office, he established what they call triggers. So those promises that we've been made, that the base will be at this amount of money and that we are going to be guaranteed that we're going to get that. I've heard all of that before. And those triggers are based, when Governor Brown did it, were based on what was the revenue that the state was getting, so that they could then turn around and allocate it appropriately. And we saw significant drops because of the economic variables that were out there. So things that we had counted on went away. And I can see that happening again. So we are trying to take not we're not trying to be stingy, but we are taking a prudent approach, because those are projections in the future. And I want to thank Adil and Marla for providing such a comprehensive and thorough analysis. But I also want to see what's going to happen by the end of next year as we go into the 23-24, because we've been told that that's what the base is going to be. But if things start to go south with, you know, revenues, inflation, you name it, and the state doesn't have the money to then pass on to us, we will have to live on that. We will have to live on those numbers. And so we do not want to use one-time money for ongoing cost. We're looking at one-time money to pay for debt servicing of our OPED bonds. As you know, we had $6 million that we used last year. This year, we went to the board and asked for $8 million. Is projected, if you look at the projections that we provided earlier this year, is projected, if we don't address the principal, not just the debt servicing and the interest, that could go up as much as $25 million. And that fund balance will be dissolved. So we are looking at it. We are making prudent decisions. We are, as Adil indicated, looking at using funds to shore up some gaps that we have based upon the classification study. You heard about that tonight in public comments, but we want to see what is going to be the final budget and what winds up really on the table before we can commit and have discussions and negotiations on dollars that we don't even have yet. So that is our plan. We will not use one-time money for ongoing costs. We will use them for one-time costs, and we will take care of our faculty and our staff and administrators with that if we can. And we are putting out marketing plans that I believe that Executive Director Mark Johnson provided. And so we're trying to turn this around. We have some new initiatives that the CTE deans are looking at. So we're being proactive. We're being proactive, we're being entrepreneurial, and we are looking at programs that may need a jump start, as well as those programs and supporting those programs that are growing.
Thank you. You know, I would like to mention one more thing as a comment. This budget presentation is very professional and a substantial improvement over what we've had in recent years. Kudos to all.
Trustees, any more questions? Okay, I just have a question. Maybe it's more of a comment than a question. So I'm looking at the 5-year projection on page 10, but also it was the presentation that you just went through, IVC, Ahmed. And as we all know, and you have it here, 25-26, we no longer have the hold harmless. But we also know that in 25-26, the floor will be the 24-25 amount. And I think what is my confusion here is that the revenue continues to increase 24-25 to 25-26, whereas if we look at other tentative budgets across the state, it dips because that's really what's going to happen. It's going to dip or remain the same, but it's certainly not going to increase. And so just, you know, maybe if we can take a look at that, because the revenues shouldn't be increasing in 25-26. And going back to your point, Chancellor, I think one of the things that the LAO said was that in 25-26, the state general fund is going to be at a great deficit for sure. And so the expectation is that the state's going to be in a worse situation then. And so our revenues increasing in 25-26 without the hold harmless seems like it's very optimistic, but maybe slightly questionable. But at the same time, which I think I really appreciate, is that our expenditures keep on increasing because they will, which is the dilemma that we're going to have, right, in 25-26, where our expenses continue to increase, but our revenue will be different. And so I don't necessarily need an answer, but when we come back for the next budget or the conversations that happen between this budget and the next budget, it'd be great to have a conversation and see what happens there within that 24-25 and 25-26 revenue amounts.
And that is one of the discussions that's going on right now, which is why we did not use the May revise, is what is going to be the floor. And if we do not meet Skiff goals, will we indeed get that 3% COLA that IVC Ahmed was talking about? Because at one time it was discussed that if you don't meet your Skiff goals, it was going to be like a carrot and a stick. You're not going to get the COLA. You're just going to get the base funding.
Mm-hmm.
So that is huge, because 3% onto a budget that they're saying they're going to use the Skiff hold harmless dollars for, not just the Skiff itself. So that's the difference. That's part of the reason that it's gone up. But in addition to that, they're also saying that you will get the cost of living increase. And that has been something that has been batted back and forth at the state level. And I'm not sure where it is at this point, but the last legislative update that we got did indicate that it's still in discussion. It has not been decided yet. We just got an update from Mcfarland Group Incorporated, MGI, and that was in their update that I shared with the presidents on Monday, the cabinet. So it is not a done deal, which is why we put it in red to highlight it. But that is the recommendation, that they don't hold the cost of living over our heads to be able to meet the Skiff goals. But it's anybody's guess right now where the legislature will fall on that.
Yeah, it is. Okay. And any other questions all? I keep on looking at my computer here because that's the only way that I can see if somebody has their hand up. Sorry.
I'm keeping an eye on it. I don't see any other hands up.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chancellor. And thank you, IVC Ahmed. I'm glad you're well and better. Continue to take care of yourself. And thank you, Dr. Powell.
Thank you, President.
Are we voting on this?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Hogan,
Yes.
student trustee Latino,
Yes.
trustee Withrow,
Yes.
trustee Handy,
Yes.
trustee Gonzalez Ewan,
Yes.
trustee Delphine Polk,
Sasha, did you miss me?
did I? Oh, trustee Jenkins?
Yes.
I have a check mark by your name, but I guess not. Trustee Delphine Polk
Yes.
and trustee Napoleon Bellaris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
She voted for you, Kevin.
Got it right.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Chancellor. Okay, let's move on to the next item. I'm sorry, I moved from my agenda page. 5.1, 5.1.
Actually, board president, quick interruption. I apologize. Trustee Jenkins pulled out item 5.2.
5.2. Okay, let's take 5.2 out of the collection of consent. And I'll give this back to you, Trustee Jenkins.
Is there a report or anything from the chancellor or staff?
What we will do, I didn't know if the board wanted to put a motion on the floor before with discussion or.
Yes, yes. Motion for 5.2, please.
I'll move approval of that item.
Thank you, Trustee
Second.
Gonzalez. Thank you, Trustee Withrow.
Okay. It was mentioned regarding our legal fees. And so I've asked Royal Roberts, our chief of staff, to provide some clarity regarding what those charges are. And also, and I'm not sure if he was able to complete it or not, to get some sense of, are those normal or what are they, aberrant cost? Just to put it into context, I think. And if there are any specific questions after he makes his short presentation and analysis, then we'll try to address those. So, Royal.
Yes, thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, trustees. Basically, what this item is, we already had a legal budget that was approved. What this is a proactive approach to anticipate where our legal funds will end at this fiscal year. Basically, in looking at March, April, and May, and the services that we had required, we anticipate that there may be, when all of the expenses come in, there may be an overage. This is not a guaranteed amount that will be needed. It is so that if the amounts do come in at over, we will have the ability to pay. And what the chancellor just mentioned, she asked me to do a little background so that we have the actual information. And what I was able to look at just in reference to previous fiscal year, last fiscal year 2021, this year's legal budget was almost half of what our legal budget was last year. To be specific, it's 47% less than our entire legal budget last year, and it's 25% less than the legal budget that was expended in 1920. So the other thing I want to mention, and we did catch this prior to it, after it went out, the total amount would actually come to 1.2 versus the 1.4 that it may show in the packet. And this is the first year for us doing some things around the negotiations, all the units at one time. But these particular legal fees, it's not one thing. It's a combination of settlements, investigations, environmental issues, public records, immigration, restraining orders, trademarks, administrative hearings. So it's a combination of many different things. So with that, that's just kind of an understanding that we have reduced legal expenditures exponentially this year, and we continue to we anticipate continuing to do that as time goes on. So if there are any specific questions, I would be happy to answer any of those.
Trustee Jenkins has his hand up, Cindy.
Trustee Jenkins.
Thanks for that report, Royal. I appreciate it. It helps give understanding. Can you explain the contingency for $60,000?
Yes. The number that we came up with is closer to 238,577, which you rounded to around 240. In conversations, really with leadership, we wanted to be more conservative and leave some additional room, because we did have some late legal issues that came up right at the beginning or right at the end of May and the beginning of January, which were still not even contemplated into this particular number. So again, that was more to be on the much more conservative side, so that we wouldn't find ourselves coming back to the board for more if we went over that number.
And do you happen to have the rate for each one of those legal firms?
I don't have the rates in front of me. I can get you that, but what I can tell you, with at least two of the legal firms that have been working with us over time, it's a significantly reduced rate from what their normal rate is. But I can definitely get you that information. I don't have it in front of me today.
Good job on getting that discount. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I also, while I have the microphone, I just want to thank Ms. Brandy Howard, who is our legal coordinator, who keeps a keen eye on the budget and makes sure that we're doing our level best to make sure that the firms that do support a district of our side do get paid on a timely manner.
Thanks, Royal. I have a question, and this might be to you, and this might be to the chancellor. What is the evaluation process for each of these law firms and evaluating their effectiveness?
Thank you. Chancellor, would you like for me to take that, or?
Well, you've been here longer. I can just tell you, in my previous district, and as you know, this is my first budget cycle really, is when we looked at our costs when I was a chancellor, we did an analysis, and that analysis was based upon how are our costs compared to other districts our size. And we also looked at what were the expenditures of the Bay 10, because at the time my board was asking me some of the same questions that you are, gosh, that looks like a lot of money, are we spending that appropriately, and what are the rates that they're charging us, and why did you guys decide to go with this particular law firm over another? And it's a multitude of different things. One of them is you want to have someone that has a strong history with your district, because they have that historical knowledge that bringing in someone new that would then charge you to dig up all of that historical knowledge. And so you aren't getting any cost savings by jumping, even though the number may look lower, they don't have the historical memory and bring that to bear during either negotiations or during any kind of litigation. The other thing that we weren't able to do, and it's something that really is on a personal level, because districts don't want to tell you how much they're spending, but we do have some connections. And so I wouldn't be able to say this particular college district is spending that amount, but I can provide you with, some numbers in terms of we're about in the middle of the ballpark with our numbers. Some districts have much more, and it depends on the year. It depends on litigation. It depends on investigations. It depends on if there's settlements. So I think that we're within the ballpark of what my knowledge of other districts within our region are spending. It's not on the high end. It may be on the high end of the middle in terms of what those expenditures are. And then the other thing, and it's an intangible, but it means a lot when you're dealing with attorneys. You can ask an attorney something and they'll give you all of the answers of, well, it's because of this. And I can't really give you a straight answer because it depends. When you have a rapport with a firm, they understand those things and they're much more candid with giving you information versus it depends. They also know based upon your history, if you're willing to fight for something and defend something because the belief system of that board is, A or B or C. And all of those things come into bear. So I will tell you with the firms that the board has been dealing with for a number of years that are on that list, there were times this year where nobody had a history of action. And they said, oh yeah, I remember this firm. It, blah, blah, blah came up and we had some issues with them or whatever. That's something you can't really buy if you shop around for the cheapest deal. So I've been very happy with our partners. We have not established under my term here any kind of rubric. That might be something that we want to do later on because sometimes you do get cost savings. It's not just, as someone said tonight in public session, it's not just the money. It's the value that you get out of the service. So I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, but it really is a combination.
And if I could just add just a couple of things, Chancellor, to Vice President Delphine Polk's question. Back to the time where we had our longest serving general counsel, in-house general counsel, there were roughly 45 firms that we were working with on a panel that had been previously vetted. Since that time, as you all know, we have gone to outside counsel and that number has shrunk. But the reason it shrunk is because we didn't have an internal person to manage that number of firms. And in addition to what the chancellor just mentioned, having firms that have a capability of being able to handle the diverse number of legal issues that a district of our size needs. So again, they were originally vetted through that general counsel process and over time. And that was the initial rubric. However, there has not been a new rubric established.
Just a quick follow-up. Do we anticipate a rubric being developed for that? Because this is just for my own curiosity on the effectiveness of the law firms here. I don't have day-to-day interactions with them like you do, Chancellor. I would just be curious to see if there's a rubric being developed.
If I may, Chancellor?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
I was just wondering if there was a rubric being developed to evaluate our law firms.
We will be doing that. As I mentioned, there's some based upon input that we've gotten from FitMat and some of the other agencies, ACCJC. We are looking at some recommendations and looking at in-house counsel again. And if we do, that will be part of that, is establishing a rubric and probably going out with another process such as that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Royal Roberts, and thank you for that explanation, Chancellor. I think that I really appreciate how and what you said, because the expertise, the relationship, the knowledge, as you discussed, has been invaluable in terms of supporting you, but also supporting the district. Many of the, certainly a couple, but many of these law firms. So thank you for stating that. And I would also say that part of the evaluation mechanism or instrument is, and I think that you both had brought this to the board, where comparatively speaking, our litigation has also been less than the Bay 10 compared with size and number of students, and also has lessened. Like if that is if not an evaluation instrument, I don't know what is in terms of an outcome. All right, thank you. Any more questions, trustees? Seeing no hands, roll call, please.
Student trustee Hogan.
Yes.
Student trustee Latino.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Abstain.
Polk, abstain. Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move on to the consent calendar. May I have a motion?
Move approval.
What did I?
Second.
Right, consent calendar.
So moved.
Trustee Gonzalez UN and then trustee Withrow. Discussion, no discussion because it's consent.
Second.
Roll call. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Hogan.
Yes.
Student trustee Latino.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Let's move on to action item 11.1. Consider approval of resolution 21/22-68, notice of governing board member election, specification of the election order for November 1, 2022. Chancellor?
Madam President, I would move that we approve 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3.
Do I
I
have a
agree.
second?
I second that.
Okay. Trustee Handy second, trustee Withrow first. Discussion. Roll call.
Student trustee Hogan.
Yes.
Student trustee Latino.
Yes.
Trustee Withrow.
Yes.
Trustee Jenkins.
Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Yes.
Trustee Delphine Polk.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Ewan.
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Board reports. Trustee Withrow. Okay, pass on trustee Withrow. Trustee Gonzalez UN.
Going to pass tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Handy.
I just want to say I had the opportunity to attend 4 of the in-person graduation ceremonies and the online ceremonies and also the Latinx ceremony. And I have to say, we have really managed to make lemonade out of lemons, because COVID has given us a whole new way of thinking about graduations. I remember over the years, we're always shushing the family. We're always telling them to move away from the stage, and the cameras are going on in there, and it's always trying to manage the crowd. But the first graduation at Merritt, it was just amazing because the families are up close and personal. No one had to be shushed. It was just great. And the people, they come to the graduations to see their person walk across the stage and then go and celebrate. So instead of people going home to all these different locations to celebrate, we were all there celebrating together. And I think there may be a video of the chancellor and the president dancing that may go viral, I heard. So Merritt was the first one, and I absolutely enjoyed it. And I also was very happy to receive a statue from the Associated Students of Merritt College, and also another statue from the Peralta Association of African American employees. And it was just such an honor, and to be given that by student trustee Hogans was wonderful. And as Meredith Brown used to say, I'm related to everyone. I found a cousin. A lady called me over after she heard my name, and she goes, "Who are your people?" And she was a 90-year-old cousin, and her grandson was graduating. And then the same thing happened the next day at Laney's. Laney's was a great opportunity. The students kind of walked through where the faculty that were there with all the noisemakers and stuff. And again, the most precious part is the families, the children walking up with their parents, and then the parents coming around, and I would hand the diploma to the parent and they would hand it to their student, and the student would walk up and get their picture taken with the president. And again, everybody's dancing and the music. There was just no stress on it. And then we went over to the College of Alameda. We were some busy people that day, Dr. Jackson and I. Went over to College of Alameda. And it was great to see all the people will come up and take their pictures in the front where they created the balloon arches. And then we could drive through the different stations and people would jump out of their car and take pictures. That was great. And then the party to end all party, Berkeley City College up at Merritt campus, which was wonderful to see sharing our campuses. But that was that great party with the music in the background. And I believe they bought 3,300 tacos. I certainly had my fill of them that day. So I think the takeaway is that maybe just because we've done things a certain way for forever doesn't mean that that's the best way for it to happen. And I think that if you all just look at the pictures and stuff, you will see that having, first of all, the students from 2019, 2020, and 2021. So students who had not had an opportunity because of COVID were also there to be honored. I just have to say thank you to all of the presidents and all of the faculty members and all the students that made these graduation ceremonies so special for everyone. And that's my takeaway. Thanks.
That was wonderful, Trustee Handy. Trustee Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank everyone that came out to me and Trustee Delphine Polk's office hours. We enjoyed speaking with you, talking about the district. I want to send a special thank you to Trustee Cooper. I think they are still on the call. Thank you for your service as a student trustee. I hope the experience was rewarding. I think you brought up a lot of points where we can improve as a board, and we can improve on the services that we offer to students, and you bring a unique perspective on how we should go about doing things. So absolutely thank you for your service. Welcome, Trustee Latino. I look forward to working with you, and I'm going to reach out and hopefully we can work together on improving the lives of students. And welcome back, Trustee Hogan. I also want to thank President Johnson for the warm welcome at Merritt's graduation. Like Trustee Handy was saying, it was wonderful to just be in person with the students, just be in person and seeing the happiness and the abundant joy on everyone's faces, and the students from 2020 getting to graduate with the students from today. So I really appreciate it. It's one of the highlights of my year so far. So really enjoyed that. And please look out for our next Trustee Delphine Polk and I's next office hour. we look forward to more of you coming, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Trustee Jenkins. Let's go to our student trustees. Student Trustee Hogan.
Yes, thank you. I am going to say something tonight. I would first like to thank Trustee Cooper for a great year. The service that you have provided to us was tremendous. I wish we can work together again in the future. It was great knowing you as a person, really from the bottom of my heart. I want to also thank our previous president of the ASMC, President John Adam. It was great working with him as well. I'm a delight to have the opportunity to be in leadership with those two persons. I really wanted to spotlight and say something about that. I also want to give a thanks to the Merritt College Commencement Ceremony Committee for allowing me to serve on it. I was able to speak at both the in-person and online commencement ceremonies, which was such a great opportunity, not only to build my leadership skills, but also to just congratulate the graduating classes. Being an alumni from Merritt College, it was such an honor. I appreciate the students, the trustees for coming through for us. It was a great opportunity to actually see in person Chancellor Jackson on our campus. It was a great opportunity. Thank you for coming. And Trustee Handy, I give a special thanks to you too, because you've not only been a mentor to me, but also just a really good example of something I can obtain to be one day, the type of woman. So thank you for your support and encouragement. I am working this summer as well with other past student leaders for student involvement skill training for myself, so that when I come back into service for next year, I'm more prepared to recruit more students for student activities, because we need more support from our students since we should be coming back to in-person. I'm excited about that. And I guess that's it. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited about the next year to come.
Thank you, Student Trustee Hogan, and we are very excited to have you for this next year as well. Student Trustee Latino.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to sit with you on the board, and I'm just very excited for the future, and I hope my positions as student ambassador and student assistant at BCC will be able to help me provide you with the perspective of what it's like to be a student in 2022. So I'm very excited and grateful to be here.
Great, thank you. And Vice President Delphine Pook.
Yes, I'll keep it brief. As Trustee Handy mentioned, we had the Peralta Raíces Latinx graduation, I believe last weekend or the weekend of Memorial Day. And so I was fortunate to be one of the speakers along with Dr. Cruz. It was a fantastic event, and I really want to send a special shout out to Veronica and Horacio and all the folks who were on the planning committee. It was online, but we're hoping to move it to in-person next year, but we are adapting. And so I just want to send a special thank you to everyone who attended. We had over 100 students who registered, and we had quite a few people who attended with us. So that was really fantastic. As Trustee Jenkins said, we had our first office hours. And so we're going to have another office hours set sometime in the next couple of weeks. And so check out our Twitter handles for that. It will be somewhere in Oakland, and so we'll let you know. And that's all I have for now.
Great, thank you, Vice President. And I will just say, I can't even go after what Trustee Handy had said, because she said it perfectly in terms of the colleges really creating wonderful, amazing lemonade out of lemons. It was just exciting to be in person. It was exciting to see all the students and all of the energy that was there. And those tacos truly from La Sinaloa. Oh, I kind of wish I did bring home more and not made it terminal at 2. But it just reminds all of us, and it reminded me that day of why we're here. We kind of get lost in the minutia and the quotidian and all the little things that we need to do, but seeing those faces, seeing those students, seeing the energy, seeing the faculty and the staff really just kind of immerse themselves in the student celebration was really phenomenal and fantastic. So thank you all for reminding us that this is why we do what we do, which is amazing. And then I'll just make a quick announcement. I think all of you have probably already heard. So we had our ACCJC commission meeting June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and we did select a new president, and that's been sent out. And the new president of ACCJC, because we lost a really amazing president of ACCJC, is Dr. Mac Powell, and his bio and all of that information is on the site. But we are excited about him, and I'm hoping that the field is going to be excited about him, because he will bring great and good things to accreditation within our region. And with that, I will go to you, Vice President Delphine Polk, for announcements.
Absolutely. So our first announcement, summer classes have started, but it is not too late to sign up. You can enroll online at peralta.edu. The Peralta Community College District and all 4 college campuses will be closed on Monday, June 20th in observance of Juneteenth. The College of Alameda Summer Financial Aid Popcorn and Soda Social is coming up on Wednesday, June 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on campus outside of the A building. For more information, visit the COA website at www.alameda.edu. And number 4, the next meeting of the Board of Trustees will be Tuesday, June 28th.
That's it?
That's all I got.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.